Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The South African National Taxi Council says closing taxi ranks in Gauteng will have a devastating impact on commuters and operators. MEC Kideboni Diali-Tlhabela has warned that ranks will be shut down if violence between warring associations continues. Attacks have increased in the sector recently, with the latest incident involving 3 marshals who were shot and killed in Fulo, Soweto. The Taxi Council's midday mali says stopping operations is not a viable solution.
The intention of government in Gauteng is shouldn't just to say, let's look into an issue of closing the rank. After closing the rank, what is going to happen? What is the processes that will be unfolding? Because not all the operators are involved in the killings.
An accused in the Jocelyn Smith trial alleges police threatened to throw him into the sea if he refused to make a confession statement. Legal teams yesterday continued to argue whether the statements made by Stefano van Ryn and Jacqueline Apollos can be used as evidence in the trial. Van Ryn, Apollos and Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, are charged with kidnapping and human trafficking related to the child's disappearance. Carlo Peterson has more.
Defense attorney Nobaghle Mkabayi, who represents Stefano van Ryn, says a client was told by police what to say in his confession statement. Van Ryn and Jacqueline Apollos claim they were tortured by police during interrogation in March last year to admit they were involved in Jocelyn's disappearance. Mkabayi questioned Sergeant Philip Siyaku yesterday about why he continued to interview Van Ryn when it was evident her client was suffering with pain and exhaustion. Siyaku told the court Van Ryn was coherent and confirmed he was fit to continue with the statement. Mkabayi says police threatened Van Ryn to make the confession or he would be thrown into the ocean or buried in the sand. The trial within a trial will continue today. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Saldanha Bay.
Advocate Mpofu says the person who drafted the allegations against him relating to senior judges did not think about the effect it would have on the judiciary. Mpofu is set to face a disciplinary inquiry for misconduct before the Legal Practice Council. He faces 7 charges, which 2 of them are related to Chief Justice Mandisa Maya and Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo. Khomotso Modise has more.
Advocate Mpofu is being charged for the character assassination of Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo for when he brought up rumors that he was guilty of the sexual harassment of female aspirant judges during his interview before the Judicial Service Commission. But it's the complaint regarding Chief Justice Mandisa Maya that Mpofu considers truly worrying. According to the charges, the senior counsel made comments towards the then Supreme Court Judge President during a Judicial Service Commission interview which were laden with inappropriate sexual innuendos, were offensive, unprofessional and lacked decorum. This was when Mpofu uttered the words, "And we spent our nights together."
And also the one about the Chief Justice is even sicker than the one to do with the Judge President. I mean, what do they expect the Chief Justice to do, to come and testify in some kangaroo court?
Mpofu says he's not worried about these charges as they were simply brought to tarnish his reputation. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And the illegal white Afrikaans-only settlement in Clayfontaine in Pretoria says its residents are unlikely to be taking up Donald Trump's offer to relocate to the US. Clayfontaine is in a battle for its survival after the city of Tshwane recently published a valuation roll that upped its worth from 21 million to 291 million rand. The new valuation is likely going to see its monthly rate jump from 50,000 rand a month to 2 million. Despite that, Clayfontaine spokesperson Danny De Beer says they have no desire of being refugees in America.
The fact that Donald Trump is recognizing the Afrikaner and recognizing that there are certain components of the South African law that discriminates against the Afrikaners, I think that's welcomed. Will the Clayfontainers en masse move to America? I don't think so. Can I say that nobody will? I can't say that either. But the fact that the mightiest man in the world is talking to South Africa and saying, we don't like expropriation without compensation, we don't like some of your racially based laws, I think that's very welcome.
Gold is trading at $3,198.19 an ounce. The rand is at 19.39 to the dollar, 25.21 to the pound, 21.86 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.98 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident on the N1 North. It happened right before New Road. Delays coming out of the Baklu interchange while travelling on the M1 South towards Harton. Expect delays coming out of Colet Drive towards Harton Drive due to an accident.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 23 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The South African National Taxi Council says closing ranks in Gauteng will have a devastating impact on commuters and operators.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Tell us what we need to know.
702 listens.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good morning. It's 6 minutes past 9. It's the Friday edition of the Clement Manyathela show. Tshidi Madia here in for Clement. I'll be with you until 12 this afternoon. Today we'll bring you across the desk as per usual on the Friday. We'll be followed by the relationship feature. Across the desk, I want you to think back to when you were learning to drive. For those who do drive, what was that like? What were you scared of when the car rolled back? So we'll be speaking to people who deal with us in our most vulnerable state when we are trying to be independent and trying to learn how to manage a car, how to steer a car. We'll be speaking to driving instructors in across the desk between 11 and 12. It's the relationship feature. Today we'll look at the impact of bringing children into the relationship. Very often, people are keen and open to talking about the difficulty of having kids in a relationship, but it can be positive. It can strengthen the partnership. So we'll have that discussion between 11 and 12 o'clock. But first, of course, we start with the open line. I do want to talk about Donald Trump. How can I not? When people are speaking about insider trading. So I do want to speak about Trump. Is it really what's happening? Is he clueless? Is he aware of what he's doing? Is he just toasty, and there's just another way to understand Donald Trump, the U.S. president? And of course, there's the Chinese aspect to this tariff war that's playing itself along. How long can that continue? And the impact of that on all of us. That's part of what I do want to speak about. It makes my head spin. So I'm going to try and get an understanding, and hopefully you'll help us. Maybe your perspective of what's happening might be easier and break it down for someone like me to go, oh, okay, I get it. But I also want to speak about gratitude. I know that every Friday on this show, you guys look back at the week that you've had and what you're grateful for or who you're grateful for. I will quickly say I am and I believe this, I'm a grateful girlie. That's what I'd like to say. I have an unbelievable politics team at Eyewitness News. Many of us this week have had very little sleep because of the GNU politics. So I watch them give weekends, late nights, attempt to help their colleagues. So I'm really, my heart is full. When I think about Babylon Denze, I think about Lindsay Tentlinger, Alpha Ramushwana, Tabiso, and she's like my step baby, Nokukanya Mtambo. I'm genuinely grateful. I think these are the people that sometimes make you go the extra mile yourself. I mean, I've been tired this week, but you think about how much they're willing to put in. So I don't know what makes you happy, what drives you, but this particular week, and I'm always fighting with the team, but this particular week, EW's politics team is something that's warmed my heart. So I want to know what's made your week as well. Our number 011-883-0702 if you want to call in. You can also send voice notes or WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So just this week alone, I've just been marveling. It's very difficult to not marvel at Donald Trump, I suppose. So we've seen Donald Trump walking back from his own Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs, putting a pin on the sweeping taxes. It's for 90 days, at least from my understanding. So across the world, however, he's doubled down on China. Trump claims that he's paused on the tariffs because many countries want to negotiate. I think they've said around 75 countries want to negotiate, want to cut a deal. I'd like to believe that South Africa is somewhere in the middle of all of that. But in this back and forth, China has also happened, right? I think I worry that many of us have not been spared, but I watch what's been happening. So the flat rate at the moment, as far as the taxes are concerned, is 10% across the board. That's a new levy, though, that happened for China. At some point, China was on 125 on its own. It retaliated, slapping US goods with 84%. And if I'm correct, I don't think it's surprising, at this point in time, the US has placed Chinese imports at 145%. That's my understanding. So this back and forth is a thing. And I wonder if they both have the appetite to continue, because part of the battle is also like, who's the superpower? So there's also that battle to be seen as a superpower. So I wanted to bring in somebody who can help us understand a little bit. I definitely want your thoughts about what's going on and how you think little old South Africa can be impacted, because South Africans have this disease of thinking that they're exceptional, but we are not. We're getting knocked by what's happening. And I think it's important to understand what the impact thereof is and what we should be doing during this period of reprieve. Remember, we were, I think, hit with 30%, right? So let's speak to Clement Manyathela, who's an economist and a senior manager at PwC. Good morning, Clement. Welcome to Radio 702. Let's speak a little bit about where we are. I don't think people still understand that we won't be spared in this massive tariff war that Trump has launched. What should we as South Africa be worried about at this point in time?
Thanks, Chetty. It's been a really rough week. I think the thing that we many of us have to recognize is really the instability that this causes. Remember, the whole point about tariffs is usually that it sort of tells us something about the future. So when you put up a tariff, you're sort of indicating something, or at least trying to get an action of the future. So, for example, you are telling people in your country, build some factories because you are trying to protect this industry. So you would think that if you see these tariffs, that Americans will then start to build factories because they will be producing these things now that will be very expensive if you import them. You're also indicating something about a really long-term policy. You're not really doing what we are seeing now in the US. So basically, this tariff is either going to be there between now and this week. It might actually fall off next week, and so on and so forth. And so that really creates a lot of confusion, and that's the kind of confusion we are all in now, because a lot of corporates, a lot of manufacturers, a lot of agricultural firms are all sitting around wondering, okay, so what indicators should we be looking at, and what does this all mean? And that is a kind of confusion that is really messing up the short term and will have a serious impact in the long term for ourselves as well, because remember, we are part of that global infrastructure, and particularly because when you build a factory, you don't build it for just, to produce just for the US. You build it to produce for several areas of the globe, and so that to make sure that, you are building scale, and China does the same. And so if we are in the space that we're in now, it means that actually a lot of people are quite worried, because it makes it difficult to think about who are your clients and how are your clients actually set up, and actually how are you set up also for your inputs.
In this period of a reprieve, South Africa has already been in trouble with the US. We keep defining it as frosty relations. There's so many things. In this period of a reprieve, what should our government be doing? I'd imagine, and I think the Minister Pakstau has kind of spoken to what they've been attempting to do. I'd imagine the attempts to talk are important. What should South Africa be doing? There's also an argument, I don't know if you can weigh in on it quickly, about how we become singular, where we find a single voice on issues. That part of the reason why some countries are able to retaliate is that there are no dissenting voices within that country about which direction they need to move in. South Africa has a crisis in that regard.
Yeah, look, I think we certainly do have a crisis in that regard. But what is really important is that where the period we're in actually, highlights some of the problems we've faced for a long time. So what we should be doing now is really what we should have been doing a long time ago, diversifying our markets in a very important way, making sure that we are building, a strong base for our exports. We've talked a lot about also, the sort of so-called import substitution. So all of the work we've been talking about doing in terms of actually, our industrial sector, our exports, our imports, and our relations globally, all of that now has come to the fore. And it says, look, if we had, because a lot of people are asking, okay, so where are we going to replace the US with? What are we going to do now? All of that stuff is stuff that we have been talking about for many, many years, which we have not really reached any kind of strong progress on. So it is time now to that we are recognizing that this is an important moment for us to recognize that the work we should have been doing and for which we are really quite behind needs to now be accelerated. But perhaps the evaluation that's important also right now to say this moment actually let's evaluate a little bit more in terms of what is happening and why is it happening the manner that it is happening, because I think that will help us also to imagine a sort of a different kind of future. So those are the key things that we should be thinking about what should everything we should have been doing has come up, and we are now actually right under the spotlight in terms of thinking about that, because I was listening to the Chinese, and the Chinese were saying, look, the US is 15% of our market. That's not small, but certainly it is a very diversified market. While it is not small, it is not as crippling as something that would be for us, where basically we can find our dependence quite strong. So it is one of the things that is very important, that we are not overly dependent, because moments like this do happen.
I wonder how many sobering conversations we need to have until we actually start to do the things we need to do. China's appetite to continue this back and forth, even America's, I think, is well worth gauging. How do we rate it, and how much do you think each of them have as far as stamina is concerned to continue this back and forth?
Look, it looks like China has a very, very high stamina for this. It's for the moment. I've seen some of the content that you've seen. One of the interesting things about China is that basically the internet has been allowed to roam free in the manner that it is playing against the US. But you see some of the things that the measures that the Chinese are putting out. I saw one announcement in which they're saying they issued a travel notice, basically almost telling their citizens not to travel to the US. Now we know how important the US market, the Chinese market is in terms of tourism. We know we've been wanting to capture it for a long time in South Africa. They've also been doing work around, not buying dollars, telling the president telling the banks, reduce their dollars. There's been all sorts of information that's coming out, and they clearly, while they want to negotiate, they are saying we're not going to negotiate under these conditions. Then we're going to fight this, and then when the US comes back, maybe a little bit soberly, then they will negotiate. So they've got a really strong appetite to fight. They especially, and I think you said this earlier, that this is also a sort of a gauge for who's the superpower. And so I suspect the Chinese are going to push as far as possible to show that they are actually not to be played with.
Just before I let you go, suddenly we are hearing reports of possibly Trump being involved in insider trading. I mean, he did tweet before changing his skin that now is the time to buy. And you're like, is Trump, that's what I was asking, is he clueless or is he velatoti? Like, is this what he's doing? Is he openly this corrupt? What is it?
I mean, this is quite interesting, because certainly he knew that this is, now is the time to buy. You think, well, because I saw that earlier myself, and I thought, well, he's clearly saying now is the time to buy, because he's saying we are in a strong moment as the US, because they're rolling out new policies and we're making sure that America. But then a few minutes later, he's actually basically did what he did in terms of actually inspiring markets. Because I think he must have known, he's a guy who plays his markets. He must have known that there would be a connection between that and the decision he would later take. And that is really the very basic definition of insider trading, where basically I'm about to do something. So I would suggest you also you act, and those two connect exactly the same way. So this is classical definition of what you would say is insider trading. Except maybe because he made it public, that would be difficult in the sense that, it's what we call market manipulation in a sense, because he did make it public. Whether it's insider trading or market manipulation, neither of those are actually legal. And I suspect we will hear more about this as time goes on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's Chetty, who's an economist and senior manager at PwC, just weighing in on this continuous tariff war. I find this, now's the time to buy, a great time to buy. And that leaked video, if you saw it maybe on social media, where he says, he's going to be a billionaire. I'm like, what is actually going on? What are your thoughts? 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings.
4 to 6.
Santaco's response to the threats by the Gauteng Transport MEC to shut down taxi ranks for up to 6 months if the violence doesn't stop in Gauteng.
We don't have any option, but as long as it will bring a lasting solution to the conflict, the killings that are happening in Soweto.
To be clear, Santaco in Gauteng would be supportive of closure of taxi ranks.
Partially so, but it is going to have a bad impact to our communities.
Medemali, Gauteng chairperson for Santaco.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Running a small business doesn't mean you face small problems. That's why you need Smart SME by Santam. It's tailor-made insurance built for small businesses. Even you, the plumber whose vehicle becomes a food truck on weekends. Or you, the beautician, wearing many hats. We cover the all in small business. Visit santam.co.za or SMS Smart SME to 34852 to get a quote. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
South Africa, get ready to feel the pulse of the Hollywood Bets Durban July. Prepare for an exciting day of high fashion, thrilling horse racing and world-class entertainment. Watch this space for an incredible artist lineup announcement as we celebrate this year's magnificent theme, Marvels of Mzansi. Be a part of the buzz. Tickets are on sale now at Ticket Pro, Spar Pays on kiosks and selected Sassel stores. See you on Saturday the 5th of July at the Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse for Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
I'm a person with vision, and I need a car that will catapult me into the future. There's no time to waste dreaming. It's time to do and discover the extraordinary. My M-Zoom R-Style and I set the pace. It's my wingman. On the dance floor or with the CEO, time is money, and I want the best. Upgrading to the M-Zoom R-Style at the M-Zoom executive price is a steal of a deal. At 439,900 Rand, get yours this April before the VAT increase. GAC, where craft meets technology.
From juggling a million roles at once to keeping customer satisfaction on point, what makes one SME stand out above the rest? This week we get to find out as the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN, announces the finalists on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Pingwa from 6 a.m. and 702 Drive with John Perlman from 3 p.m. Visit primediaplus.com to find out more about the finalists in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. T's and C's apply.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 22 minutes past 9. Tshidi Madia in for Clement on the CM show. We're speaking about a variety of issues. It is the open line. I want to know what people are grateful for. I'm grateful for many things. I've explained it. I also do want to speak about Trump. He continues to fascinate me. I also don't know if people picked up on the fact that he signed off like an executive order on shower heads. He was complaining about the shower pressure under Barack Obama and Joe Biden's tenure. So that's also an issue, along with the issue of the paper straws as well. I seen Tabi saying out in Pretoria East. I'm going to try and grab your call. There we go. Good morning, Tabi saying. Good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Thank you so much, Chetty. Yes, good morning to you too. Indeed, I am grateful this morning for many things. I've had many sobering conversations with my family because of this economic downturn. And being married to an Afrikaans white man is not the easiest thing, especially if he's not the type that is rich.
You do get judged for that. I'm not laughing about that, but I've seen people actually judge people who are married to somebody of the white race, and then they're not financially well off. Like, how is that even possible? But it's a thing. Yes, continue.
Yes, so I'm grateful that we've got financial relief this morning from the UIF. He was retrenched last year in October, and we've applied and everything was just quiet. But this morning, that SMS, it might be temporary relief, but I am so grateful right now. It's not even funny. And yesterday, I took my dad home from the oncology clinic here in Pretoria. I'm like, oh, hallelujah. And I'm also grateful that at least I have a job. If he doesn't have, at least I have a job. I have so many things to be grateful for, Ntabi. I really appreciate the mercy and grace of God.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that, Ntabi. I'm glad you guys have a temporary reprieve with regards to the UIF, but also about your dad's health. Thank you so much for letting us know. And good luck with that. Good luck with all of those. That's good news. Thank you so much. That's
Thank
Ntabi out.
you.
That's
Bye.
bye-bye. That's Ntabi out in Pretoria East. I also want to speak about something I picked up in the newspapers. I don't know if I'm the only one who's seen this, but Discovery Life, I think, had done a study that they put out data about midlife suicides being on the rise in the country, where they speak about how South Africans above the age of 50 are facing a surge in suicides, surpassing the death claims from accidents. That's what Discovery is dealing with at the moment. The data from the insurer, which paid out about 11 billion rand in claims last year, shows that 1 in 5 death claims it received last year is due to unnatural causes, with suicides accounting for an alarming 35% of the claims. Now, I don't think you need to ask anybody, any of us who are trying to adult, know that it's not easy to adult well, to thrive. And Tabi Singh's call there speaks to that for me, where things can be so incredibly difficult. And you ask yourself, how do you cope? So one of the things I'm hoping to get you to weigh in on this morning is, how do you navigate that? How do you try and get yourself unstuck? Because part of what they've identified as a problem is that we're a country that doesn't necessarily take care of mental well-being really well. We don't understand mental health. And I think that generation of 40-year-olds, 51-year-olds, 60-year-olds are also not people who grew up with the concept of therapy. I don't think it's something that they are comfortable with the majority, I think, talking through issues. And I was wondering, how do you cope? How do you make sure that you aren't stuck in a rut, in a funk, that you're not stuck in a dark place, because that's where the danger is, right? Where you're then stuck in a dark space where you can't see a way out. And I'm wondering if people do have mechanisms to try and navigate this. I don't know. I just know that we're a generation that has a tough time. We're a generation that is called, I think, the sandwich generation, where what you're dealing with are your children that you are raising, and then most of us also have ill parents that we take care of. And so the difficulties where also the economy is what it is, there are no jobs, then how do you manage? How do you navigate that? I mean, it is scary, isn't it? 35% of those unnatural deaths is death by suicide. That says something about mental health. I think there are attempts at a lot of companies to put in wellness programs, but I also know that there are a lot of companies that still don't understand. A lot of managers, when you speak about issues of mental health, they dismiss it as if it's nothing. 011-833-0702, 072 702-1702. I see Celeste on the WhatsApp line saying, I can't even joke about Trump. He's the worst leader of the so-called superpower. He's lying, self-serving narcissist. I think many people, Celeste, believe it or not, are in agreement with your perspective. Many people are worried about what it means. I think South Africa is worried about what maybe an proximity to an Elon Musk has on our country and what that does as far as Donald Trump is concerned.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
All right, it's almost time for headlines now, but after the headlines, we'll continue with your open line, and then we will speak a little bit later on, of course. Remember, across the desk, we are speaking about driving permits, driving licenses. We're speaking to instructors. What is it like for them, a day on their job? We'll get an understanding of that. And in the relationship feature a little bit later on, between 11 and 12, we'll be speaking about children. We'll be speaking about whether or not that's beneficial to relationships. A lot of people generally have an attitude that it is a negative. You always hear reports about how difficult, how complicated having children makes a relationship. But in some cases, a decision to have children is what strengthens a partnership. It what makes things better for couples. So we will also have that particular discussion a little bit later on. Just want to take a quick break now before I go to headlines.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, I think Fiso's just stepped into the booth. Sfiso, good morning. How are you doing? Do you have headlines?
Thanks, Chetty. Good morning. Well, the South African National Taxi Council says closing ranks in Gauteng will have a devastating impact on commuters and operators. Transport MEC Gidiboni Diale-Tlhabela has warned that the hubs will be shut down if violence between warring associations continues. Attacks have increased in the sector recently, with the latest incident involving 3 marshals who were shot and killed in Mfulo, Soweto. Parliament has called on Treasury to help in the recruitment of 20,000 new soldiers while calling for a bigger defence budget. Parliament's defence committees have also warned that the country's defence force risks being in a permanent state of crisis unless it receives urgent funding to turn it around. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the World Trade Organization to loosen its grip on policies he believes may be stifling economic growth for developing countries. Ramaphosa made the call yesterday during the commemoration of the organization's 30th anniversary, where he also called for the global institution to reform amid a changing global trade landscape. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are heading into the Germiston area, that's leaving Joburg, you can expect heavy delays. This is on the M2 westbound between Joslovo Drive and the Crown Interchange. Also, slow-moving traffic leaving the Joburg CBD. That's the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Look out for those faulty traffic lights. That's in the Edenville area. That's between Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck. Also, slow-moving traffic leaving the Edenville area heading into Bedford View. R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gululies Interchange. Heading towards Pretoria. That's leaving Midrand. Bumper-to-bumper traffic. There's about a 20-minute delay. That's between the Baklu Interchange and New Road on the N1 North. It looks like there's an accident scene, so rather use the R55 or Old Pretoria Road as an alternative. And also traffic lights not working in the Randburg area at Malibongo Drive and Mahogany. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Running a hotel, lodge or B&B means giving guests the perfect getaway. But who is looking out for you? From loss of income to unpaid hotel bills and malicious damage to your property, the risks to your business are many. Smart business owners trust Auto & General Hospitality Insurance so that when suddenly happens, you are covered. For an obligation-free quote, visit autogen.co.za or SMS business to 49025. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The new Corolla Cross. Fill it with friendship. Fill it with...
How's it, Brie?
And...
Sharp, bruh.
Fill it with family. Fill it with...
We're gonna be late!
And...
Coming now.
Fill it with Harry Smith halfway stops. Fill it with...
Lekker, nee.
Fill it with life. With a new look exterior including a geometric grille, panoramic view monitor, park distance control, a power boot kick sensor and a spacious interior, the new Corolla Cross is filled with life.
Old Mutual Music in the Gardens, in partnership with 702 and Breakout Events, brings you Grammy Award-winning saxophonist Kirk Whalum on Sunday, 18 May at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden. From R&B to the smooth sound of contemporary jazz, let Kirk Whalum take you on a soulful journey. Tickets available at web tickets from 195 Rand. Or Mutual Music in the Gardens featuring Kirk Whalum live Sunday, 18th May at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Gardens. Gates open at 2 p.m. in partnership with 702.
702 was in conversation with Altron,
Celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg through partnership
and collaboration.
You've partnered with Josie Majosi. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think firstly, it's really important that it's time to tell the Joburg story. You know, I think for good reasons, you know, things like Eskom, Transnet has been a big part of the national dialogue over the last couple of years. But I think it's really time that we put our focus on Joburg. You know, it's the heartbeat of the South African economy, and Obviously Altron's been, as you said now with Bill and the founding of Altron, very much part of that story. So what we've really done is we really feel that we've been part of building this city. So we want to really be part of the efforts to rebuild this city. So we partnered with Josie My Josie. They're a non-for-profit organization. You know them.
Visit Altron.com for more info. Altron, a technology industry leader since 1965.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
It's 9:34. The Clement Manyathela show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. It is the open line. We are discussing a range of issues. You're also more than welcome to bring up your own issues. I was listening to the bulletin. I'm trying to avoid issues around Advocate Dalim Pofu. He's spoken, of course, about what he thinks is happening with the LPC going after him. I wanted to ask you about Donald Trump. I see there's a bit of feedback around Donald Trump. I'm also very, very interested in the issue of mental wellness. I'm speaking about data coming in from Discovery Life, and that data saying that South Africans above the age of 50 are facing a surge in suicides. It surpasses claims from accidents. And think about what happens on our roads, the carnage that we talk about. So when you hear that people are struggling with mental health and the figures are worse than what you're dealing with on our roads, that is concerning, isn't it? So I always wonder about, how do people cope? How do you make sure you aren't stuck in a funk, that you are able to look after your mental well-being, that you protect your peace at all times? 35%, I think, yes, of those particular claims that come in from unnatural deaths are linked to suicide. And it looks at people between the ages of 51 and 60. I think I saw a very interesting tweet from Kolela Kawesi here saying, I'm approaching 40 and I still have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I'm just taking each day as it comes. Do you feel like you're coasting? Is that what it feels like? Karabo, you are here. Are you coasting? Are you You always look like you're thriving. You don't ever look like you're coasting.
No. I'm definitely thriving, We've got levels of thriving. It depends. Your standards are your standards, guys. If you feel like you are coasting because you're surrounded by people who are thriving.
So growing up, adulting, that stuff doesn't get to you. It's not difficult for you. You're not worried that you get stuck in a rut.
There's no manual in life, like you were talking about being a parent earlier on. It might disturb the relationship. There's some parts where it builds and there's some parts where you forget and you have to go back. The kids are growing and maybe the romance is different because the kid is always coming into your bedroom. There's different dynamics into life. So thriving, some people are like, yo, you're a dad, you're a great dad. Always, I'm like, no, I'm just doing what I gotta do.
I've seen Kabumo actually. Now that I think about it, I've actually seen you addicted. All right.
So, priorities, what you want in life. So,
Simply put.
No pressure, guys. There's no pressure in life. You must take it easy. Yeah. But if you need mental health, if you're in a mental health issue, definitely look for options to get better and get well. That's what I always advocate.
All right, thank you for that. That's kind of Charlie. Is that traffic? I wanted to weigh in a little bit on that topic. People coasting. I'm jealous of you. I think life is difficult. I think every day I've got an ailing father, and it is hard. I've got friends who've got ailing parents, guys. It is difficult. So you navigate that. And then you have a competitive work environment where you try and thrive. You navigate that. You've got this economy. People are struggling to find jobs. You navigate. So it's really, really difficult. I think that trying to protect your peace is important. I don't know how you do it. I'd love to know how you go about protecting your peace. I think I've got a couple of voice notes. I'll play those for you. If you want to send in voice notes, 0727021702. That's the WhatsApp line. And you can send voice notes there. And also 011-883-0702.
Has anybody considered that the outrageous policy changes which Elon Musk and Donald Trump have inflicted on the whole world, that these policy changes are no more than insider trading for business purposes, because every time they send the stock exchanges spiraling upwards or downwards, they can make a fast buck.
And that's the issue here, isn't it? That make a fast buck thing, at least on Trump's part. Thank you so much for that. There's a WhatsApp that's coming and saying, TD, have you ever thought what would happen where the DA, EFF or MKP win our own general elections outright? With that 50+1 percentage votes, I suspect all of them individually would behave like Trump and introduce laws that would change the current status quo, because they all complain about how the ANC has been running the country. Thank you. That's Simon. Simon, I don't know if I agree with that. I think that you guys remember that there's a view, and I try and avoid the ANC today, but there is a view that on paper, the ANC's policies are generally sound. And on paper, the ANC and the DA are not too far from one another, believe it or not. There is that view. So I don't know if there'll be sweeping changes at that level. And I also think that you need to almost think about how slow processes are in Parliament, because if they get an outright majority, or at least let me speak about the coalition's issues, that even the ANC with its outright majority had failed to move certain things along. I think that there'll still be a struggle to get certain things passed. I don't think that they'll move as quickly. I don't think that they'll be as drastic. There is a recognition, that's what I think, that you need to also be mindful of, what's the word? There's a word about not too, shocking the system too much. So I do think there's a little bit of that as well. I see there's another WhatsApp here that says, well, I don't agree with people. Well, I don't agree with people taking their own lives. I can understand the total state of hopelessness older people find themselves in, difficulty with coping with the rising cost of living, deteriorating health, adult children who may not thrive, may not want to help, or are unable to help. It's a lot. It's really a lot. That's Noni. That's the thing, though, isn't it? It's a bit of a morbid conversation to be having on a Friday, but I think it's our reality that people are struggling, and I think that we can't pretend that we don't see it. I mean, I see it in my peers. A lot of my generation, my friends, are struggling with ailing parents at the moment. That's one of the biggest things. And then trying to also thrive, again, as I said, in very competitive environments. Literally this morning, somebody was asking me about job opportunities, and I was saying to them, the media industry right now also doesn't have a lot to offer. That's part and parcel of the issue. And that's where that issue of hopelessness is, because then the person started explaining to me how they've been hunting for an opportunity for a very long time. So it's very difficult to stay abreast of that. What are your experiences? But what do you do to counter in the face of everything that we have going against us? What do you do to maintain your peace? You don't? Is Karabo Charlie the only person who is thriving? I don't understand how that's happening. If there's only one person who seems to be coasting and enjoying life somewhat, I see more and more, and I hear a lot more problems on a day-to-day basis. Our numbers 011 883 0702, 011 883 0702, 072 702 1702. Whatever you want to raise is also open. I'm not setting the agenda for us. I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm open to hearing what else you have on your mind. I saw somebody asking me about the former president saying that it's his birthday, I think tomorrow, and whether I got my cow. No, guys, stop asking me about the cow. I don't have the cow. If the cow arrives, I will make a big announcement about it. We will bring the cow to Prime Media. You will know I don't have the cow. Let's take a quick break.
At 702,
We're proud of a lot of things
but none more than our connection to you.
because we know when we walk the talk,
We're never alone.
I had been waiting so long for UIF for 18 months, and Kabazela and John Perlman had somebody from UIF on. And you know what? I finally got paid, and I just want to say it's actually saved my life. So 702, thank you, and you reach far and wide to all people.
Every SMS,
voice note,
email,
phone call,
your every word leads to action.
that changes lives, changes minds, uplifts communities, and holds authority to account.
Together, we've turned dialogue into good deeds.
And promises into progress.
Yes, we did that. You and 702. So, stay tuned.
Because if this is how far we've come, imagine how much further we can go.
When we stick together, 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Struggling with the stairs at home? Let Lifter SA lift you up. Lifter's home lifts are sleek, European designed, and fit into almost any home. No lift shaft, no major construction. All you need is a standard 220-volt plug installed in just 2 days. It's the perfect upgrade for your home or a smart addition to your new building. Why move when you can improve? Visit lifter.co.za or call 080 7373 737 for your free, no obligation assessment. Take your home to the next level with Lifter SA.
World Sports Betting puts the excitement of Vegas in the palm of your hand. Bet on thousands of markets daily or try your luck on hundreds of games and you could become an instant millionaire. Register today at wsb.co.za and get your first deposit matched up to a massive 20,000 Rand. World Sports Betting. Bet with the best. Licensed by Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No person under the age of 18 permitted to gamble. NRGP toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008. Winners know when to stop.
You and your two besties have been belting out the same song since you were 6 years old.
Don't you feel like a cry?
30 years later, and that song will be sung live in New York City.
Don't you feel like crying?
Imagine.
Don't you feel like a crack, crying?
Now imagine buying 3 Golden Circle tickets to the show. Ladies, we ride a door.
Oh, yeah.
Invest early. You'll be so happy you did. Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is a registered FSP.
The new Armada C9 has arrived and is setting a new benchmark for what South Africans can expect from a premium SUV. As the brand flagship model, it delivers cutting-edge technology, standout design, and luxury that's truly within reach. The C9 is defined by its avant-garde, award-winning exterior and refined, elegant styling. It comes standard with a long list of premium features, including 20-inch alloy wheels, a panoramic sunroof, and a powered tailgate. Inside, you'll find black leather upholstery, heated and ventilated front seats, a heated steering wheel, and dual-zone climate controls with rear vents. It's designed for people who appreciate quality and comfort but want value that makes sense in today's economy. At a time when smart financial decisions matter more than ever, the Armada C9 offers true luxury without the luxury price tag. Visit armada.co.za to find out more.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:46. We are taking your calls. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. We're speaking about a variety of issues. Raised the issue of Trump. Asked about how you manage to stay out of a funk. We've got really worrying alarming figures of midlife suicides on the rise in the country. And we are, of course, speaking about what you're grateful for. It is a Friday, still a Gratitude Friday. 011-883-0702. That's for calls. 072-702-1702. That's if you want to send a voice note or a WhatsApp. Mpo in Johannesburg, good morning.
Good morning, Tshidi. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Tshidi, I agree. Live life, coast, guys. If it's not within your powers, don't stress about it. If you cannot do something about it to change it, don't stress about it. Just live your life, enjoy it, live within your means, be happy with what you have, and take it as it goes. I try and live, like I say, I try and live like a baby. Have you seen Ngwanomunyani ofeta Lushaba? O kwatala 2 seconds and then afterwards, when she wants, or when they want to reach for something, they stress about that I can't reach what I want to get now. As soon as they've got it, they move on. They don't stress about something that is not within their powers.
Lushaba is a bad example. I never want to do anything to do with Lushaba. But Mpo, it's very easy to say that you coast, and when you get what you want, then you're satisfied. But the problem is that, isn't it, that you don't get what you want. That's the difficulty with adulting. The difficulty with adulting is you may try as you want to get the job opportunity that you like, to be able to afford and take care of your family and your loved ones the way that you want to. Even your own material gains you might want. Try as you want. And then huapala. It's just difficult. And it's the economy. But it's also just navigating relationships. I don't think we talk enough about, as you grow older, navigating even your own loved ones is difficult.
But if you accept what you have and you are happy with what you have, who you are, what you've built, it's easy for you to look at, okay, I still need to achieve 1, 2, 3. Let me give it time. Let me understand. Because hence I'm saying that if it's not within your powers, do not stress about it. You stressing about the job you want and not being happy about the one that you have will not make you happy. Be happy with what you have and not what you want.
Okay, I'm going to
because
take
that will come when it comes.
Yeah, I'll take that, but I don't know. Thank you so much. That's Mpo out in Johannesburg saying, learn to be happy with what you've got. That's what Karabo Charlie's philosophy is as well. Like, Karabo's happy-go-lucky. He's coasting through life. And he says that's what we ought to be. Marcus and Alex, hi, good morning to you.
Morning, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Mm.
Yes, I'm grateful of the Limpopo boys who are doing cycling from Pegasford to Cape Town. So those boys showed me that everything in life you can do it when your mind is clearer, because those boys are young boys that they just take initiative to just cycle from Limpopo to Cape Town with their own bicycles, their old bicycle, the BMX bicycles.
I saw some of the footage from those boys. I think I ended up following one of their accounts on TikTok because I was also trying to figure out what it is. So I didn't realize until you speak about it now that they were standing up against drug abuse.
Yes, drug abuse, GBV, and they want to assist young boys and girls from their communities to be out of substance abuse. So yeah, that's their initiative.
Marcus, do you know where they are now?
Currently, because when I checked, they said they're in Bedford West currently. So I'm not sure, because when I go through their TikTok, there's an update. If you can go to Gary Nation's TikTok, I think it's where we get an update.
I'll go and look at them as well, because I think I saw. I think they were trying to help them get bicycles at some point, and then I'm not.
Because I think they want to get bicycles to have. I think they have an initiative that they want to get bicycles to cycle from Limpopo, so that they can assist their young boys and girls from their communities to be out of street and to be out of drugs and alcohol abuse.
It's a very nice story. Thank you so much for flagging it, Marcus, because I definitely remember, as I said to you, seeing them, but I wasn't too sure what it was about. And I also recognize that there are people who are trying to help them along the way, if I'm correct. There was this weird back and forth about how, I don't know if you know, but there was a group of friends who were traveling, I think from the UK to Cape Town. Their car broke down, they got assistance, and people were saying, but those people had assistance. What about these boys? But if I'm correct, there are people who are trying to help them.
Yes, there are people that are trying to help them.
All right, thank you so much, Marcus. That's Marcus out in Alex. We wanted to speak about those boys. I don't know if you've seen them, who are embarking on a journey from Beggarsfort in Limpopo, and they're cycling to Cape Town, and they've pretty much made it to the Western Cape. I think they have the liveliest, sparkliest personalities, and he's flagging what they were doing it for. That's why I struggled a little bit with clarity around why they were doing it, but I hear now it's about raising issues against the plight of drugs, GBV, and the likes. Really lovely, but I actually think it's one of those people where we should actually try and find them and give them more attention. Here are some of your voice notes.
Hi, Tshidi. Anonymous here. Behavior is learned. And behavior, because it's learned, you need to learn it as you grow. Most of us, we live a life where we don't have stress, we're treated so good, we become cheese boys and whatever it may be. And at the later stage, when you're grown up, when those situations appear, then you can't handle it. And that's most of the people end up hanging themselves, killing themselves, because they don't see a way out. But if you learn a behavior while you're still young, and then you see a way out of any other situation, there's always alternatives.
Remember earlier, thank you so much for those voice notes. 072 702 1702. I think it's a WhatsApp about, sorry, I'm trying to think about the many things in my head at the moment. Say a WhatsApp about Donald Trump. Someone says that the sentiment around Trump keeps changing. I'm convinced that AfriForum and the Race Beta Brigade on X lied to Trump for the purpose of punishing non-Afri. I don't think, I think there's an Elon Musk thing. Thank you for that WhatsApp. I think there's definitely an Elon Musk mix in that confusion around Donald Trump and South Africa. It's got to do with Starlink to some degree. And then somebody yesterday was saying to me, we need to actually have a proper assessment of how Starlink that's made it to some countries on this continent is faring. And that actually we just aren't at a place where we are well matched. And obviously there's an issue around the regulations, right? Where Elon Musk has claimed that the issue around bringing blacks in, but it's trying to meet the country's equity laws, and that's something that he doesn't want to do. So there's that weird back and forth. And I think that maybe, that's my 5 cents view, that maybe Trump's relationship with this country might also evolve depending on his relationship with Elon Musk. I think that that issue is a factor. That issue of Elon Musk in that space is one that many people are raising in the US itself. So I do think that that might actually create some distance, and only then, I promise you, I think that there'll be a difference. Of course, we're still also waiting on that issue of an ambassador. I'm starting to get an understanding. I've been getting hints now of who could possibly be Ibrahim Rasool's replacement. I think there is some level of pressure on government to appoint an ambassador, but it's got to be an ambassador that speaks to what the US is at the moment, that speaks to our own challenges. We are also, of course, waiting for Ruben Bridget's successor to also make their way to South Africa as well. So that's part and parcel of what we are navigating. I'm going to play some voice notes. I see the calls. I'll take some of your calls as well. All right, I think I don't know what's going on with the voice notes. I want to play some of the voice notes about just some of your views on what we're talking about. I see a lot of gratitude messages coming through. I'm not sure if we're having technical issues, Abel, or if we can't play them. Abel's shaking his head, so I guess we won't. We can't play those as well. I did mention Dalimpofu earlier on. If you saw that as well, the LPC is going after the advocate over a bunch of things. I think there's about 7 transgressions that were listed. He's responded via EWN, from my understanding, to some of those issues. Just quickly want to squeeze in Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter who dealt with this matter, who's spoken to Advocate Dalimpofu about this particular issue, just to get an understanding of what he understands of the LPC going after him. It's a range of transgressions and in part bringing, I think, the fraternity into disrepute. Khomotso, good morning. Welcome to Talk Radio 702. Just very quickly, you spoke to Advocate Dalimpofu. What is the sense of what's going on, these issues of misconduct that are being put against him?
Good morning, Tshidi. Well, I spoke to the advocate, and he really has dismissed these charges as frivolous. He says there's a clear agenda with regards to these charges, and he's linking that agenda to the funders of the organization that laid these charges against him. There are 7 charges on the charge sheet, and 6 of them have been laid by CASAC. That's the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Mpofu says it is the funders of CASAC that are clearly after him. I think we should remind the listeners what some of these charges actually are. Many of them link or they date back to the parliamentary inquiry into Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office as public protector, where you may have remembered and seen Dalimpofu cross-examining Tshidi Madia, the former public protector, as well as other witnesses, former SARS executive Johan van Lochenberg and others. And so CASAC says Dalimpofu's conduct needs to be investigated, and he needs to come and account before the LPC about his conduct during that cross-examination.
So he's due to, if I'm correct, this matter is going to be heard on the 30th. Is he concerned that there will be merit, that he might be found wanting at all?
I asked him that question today, and he says not at all. He says that he was not deterred, and his reputation was not damaged by the apartheid forces. It will not be damaged right now. He says really this is a fight against justice and the work of justice that he does, clearly referring to his representation of Busisiwe Mkhwebane. But I think, some of the other charges, I think it's 2 of the charges there, are rather peculiar, unique, and interesting. These are the 2 charges about his his interactions with two senior judges. First, the Chief Justice Mandisa Maya, as well as the Judge President of the Gauteng Division, Judge Dunstan Mlambo. Those two complaints really are about the questions that he asked them during a JSC sitting, and he feels that those are frivolous and there's no reason why they should be explored because he's fine now with both. He says he's on good speaking terms with Judge President Mlambo as well as the Chief Justice. So he really says that there's nothing here, and he's going to go and appear before the LPC. But he says he's not deterred, he's not scared of anything, and he's certainly not worried about his reputation.
All right, thank you so much, Khomotso. I just wanted to get a very quick update on what the advocate had to say for himself. That's Khomotso Modise from EWN. I want to play a few of your voice notes to some of the issues that we have raised. I think they're working this time around. Take a listen.
Good morning, Tshidi. I am certainly very grateful for life this morning. Just hearing you provide these stats or talk about these stats of suicide, it just reminds me about the importance of being grateful for life, waking up and still being able to function and still having people around you alive and kicking. And of course, even though we're not happy because there's a lot going on in our country and just the world in general, but to be here and alive and kicking and having an opportunity to make things right and chase our dreams and do what we gotta do is certainly a privilege that I just want to highlight. So I'm very grateful for that. Beautiful show.
Hi, Tshidi. It is very disheartening to know that amongst the unnatural deaths, the one that stands out as so significant is suicide. There is one thing that I think is a deception amongst us that brings us a lot of stress, and that is to think that everything has to happen all at once by one person with one pair of hands and one pair of feet. We just have to take a decision that is going to speak to our lives, to say that for me to survive, I don't have to do everything all at once, one thing at a time. Thank you. Mandla here.
Thank you so much for all your messages. It's just a touch after 10 o'clock. Here's your Eyewitness News update.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The South African National Taxi Council says closing ranks in Gauteng will have a devastating impact on commuters and operators. Transport MEC Chetty Madia has warned that the hubs will be shut down if violence between warring associations continues. Attacks have increased in the sector recently, with the latest incident involving 3 marshals who were shot and killed in Mfulo, Soweto. The council's midday Mali says stopping operations is not a solution.
The intention of government in Gauteng is really just to say, let's look into an issue of closing the rank. After closing the rank, what is going to happen? What is the processes that will be unfolding? Because not all the operators are involved in the killings.
Parliament has called on Treasury to help in the recruitment of 20,000 new soldiers while calling for a bigger defence budget. Parliament's defence committees have also warned that the country's defence force risks being in a permanent state of crisis unless it receives urgent funding to turn it around. National Assembly Defence Portfolio Committee Chairperson Dakota Lekwete and his joint defence counterpart Malusi Gigaba briefed media, stressing the need for more resources. Babalo Ndenza reports.
Parliament's defence committees say if the defence budget isn't increased soon, it will jeopardise the country's national security. They've also raised major concerns over the ageing defence force, calling for a recruitment drive as part of the rejuvenation. Defence Portfolio Committee Chairperson Dakota Lekwete.
We have, as the Portfolio Committee, directed the executive and the administration to ensure that we recruit between now and the next 3 years of the medium-term expenditure framework, at least over 20,000 new soldiers.
Joint Defense Committee Chairperson Malusi Gigaba highlighted that the defense budget is grossly inadequate. He says the inability to fund the SANDF is not only counterproductive, but also undercuts the defense industry's ability to increase production and employing more people. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
Advocate Dalim Mpofu has dismissed charges against him by the Legal Practice Council as frivolous, laughable and embarrassing. Mpofu is being taken to the council to answer to several charges on alleged misconduct. Most of the complaints are made by the Centre for Advancement of the South African Constitution. They relate to Mpofu's conduct during Parliament's inquiry into former Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Khomotso Madisa reports.
Out of the 7 charges against Advocate Dalim Mpofu, 6 are complaints by KSAC, and they include Mpofu's conduct when he cross-examined former Public Protector Tshidi Madia in Parliament during Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office inquiry. The senior counsel says he's appalled that the Legal Practice Council is falling for cheap politicking by entertaining the complaints against him.
Embarrassing to think that they were drafted by people who are legally trained. Yeah, I mean, how do you charge someone for cross-examination of Tshidi Madia and trying to discredit the witness? That's the purpose of cross-examination.
Mpofu is also being charged for allegedly impugning the character of former SARS executive Johan van Logrenberg, who was another witness during the Mkhwebane inquiry. During the sitting, Mpofu asked van Logrenberg if he was suffering from a psychological condition. He's dismissed that charge as much ado about nothing. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the World Trade Organization to loosen its grip on policies he believes may be stifling economic growth for developing countries. Ramaphosa made the call yesterday during the commemoration of the organization's 30th anniversary, where he also called for the global institution to reform amid a changing global trade landscape. Nokayam Dambo has the details.
Academics and analysts from the London School of Economics previously warned that restrictions by the WTO limit the ability of developing countries to adopt preferred trade and industrial policies. They believe the expansion of multilateral trade rules to include parameters on intellectual property rights and foreign investment limit the options that are available to developing countries' governments to intervene in economic activities. President Cyril Ramaphosa says trade rules shouldn't work against developing countries.
Governments must be afforded the requisite policy space to enable them to be more responsive to their domestic challenges.
Ramaphosa says the WTO must ensure global trade is predictable and governed by a rules-based system. Nogukanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $3,198.19 an ounce. The rand is at 19.39 to the dollar, 25.21 to the pound, 21.86 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.98 a barrel.
In Midrand, heading towards the Centurion area, you can expect about a 20-minute delay on the N1 North between the Patloo Interchange and New Road. Rather use the R55 or Old Pretoria Road as an alternative. There's also slow-moving traffic in Kempton Park heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. That is the R21 southbound approaching Atlas Road. And look out for those faulty traffic lights in Randburg at Malibongo Drive and Mahogany.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 23 and 24. The top story in EWN this hour, the South African National Taxi Council says closing ranks in Gauteng will have a devastating impact on both commuters and operators.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Your stories,
your questions.
702 listens. 702
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 10, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela with your Friday edition of the CM Show. Remember, between 10 and 11, it's across the desk, and then in the next hour, we have the relationship feature. For this particular hour, we're going to revisit that conversation around driving. What do you remember about learning to drive? What do you remember about your driving instructor? Were they patient? Was it scary? That's the kind of conversation I want to have now. That's the kind of things I want to hear about. Your first experiences learning to drive. We're going to be in conversation now with Kenny, Chetty, and Siyabonga Lushaba. You're more than welcome to call in to ask them. I don't even know if people want to become driving instructors and how they go about doing so. We'll find out with our next guest. Let's have this conversation now.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, so I remember when I needed to learn to drive, my parents refused to teach me to drive. They taught my siblings. They refused to teach me to drive because I was a difficult child. And my mother would say to my dad, go try and teach her to drive. You get to a stop sign and you say to her, she must stop at the stop sign. She'll ask you why. What you going to say? She must go be taught at a driving school. And I was actually quite happy to be taught at a driving school. I think I became an excellent driver. I still think I'm an excellent driver because of that. So we'll have this conversation about what it takes to really groom people to get ready for the roads. If you look at the stats, road carnage is part and parcel of a big conversation, big concern that's happening in our country. So we do need to be able to figure out what it takes to prep people and whether or not learner behavior and how do you influence it from this level. I'm joined on the line now by Kenny Chetty. He's the director of Ken's driving school. I'm also joined, I think, via Zoom by Siyabonga Lushaba, who's the director and founder of the Ambitious Beginnings Driving School. Good morning to you both. Welcome to Radio 702. Kenny, let me start with you on the line. How did you end up becoming a person who runs a driving school? How do you end up in that space? Was it something that you set out to do, or do you coincidentally find yourself there?
Good morning, Tshidi, and good morning to your listeners, and thanks for the opportunity. When I started in the driving school industry, where I looked at road safety and how we can try and help people, especially learner drivers and beginners, to get onto the road and obviously teach them the skills of driving and road safety as well together with the driving skills.
Siyabonga, on your part, your experience in finding a driving school, running a driving school, what was your pathway towards it? Siyabonga, unmute, please. Okay, I'm going to wait for Siyabonga. Siyabonga? I don't know if you're able to press unmute. I'm going to go to Kenny while I wait for Siyabonga to come back on the line. And Kenny, how do you prepare for each lesson? What goes into preparation for each lesson every time you know that you've got a learner that you need to help navigate?
So, Siri, we basically break our driving lessons down into 3 stages. The first stage being the beginner stage, where we obviously teach the student, we introduce them to the vehicle, the controls, and an introduction, and basically getting them started, teaching them clutch control, getting them onto the road. That's the beginning stage. Then on the second stage, we normally teach them the K53 rules of driving. That's the safety checks and all of those safety measures that goes into it. And then once they're comfortable, we move on to the final stage, which is the parking stage, where we teach them the parallel parking and the incline takeoff. And once they're final and comfortable, then we know that they're now ready and prepared for a driver's test.
Siyabonga, I think I've got you now. I don't know if you're able to hear me, but let's speak about your decision around starting Ambitious Beginnings Driving School and your first couple of lessons, like where you're trying to give lessons and what that experience was like. Siyabonga? I keep struggling with Siyabonga's line. I'm not sure what the problem is. We're going to try bring him up on the phone line. I think there is a problem with the connection on the internet at the moment. Kevin, I come back to you now. There's a lot. I think you've got him now. Siyabonga, I'm going to try bring you up on the phone line. Hi, Siyabonga. Let's try do it this way. Can you hear me loud and clear, Siyabonga?
Yes. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Let's move forward. Let's speak about when you started your driving school and the decision to start teaching people to drive. What inspired that? What made you go, okay, this is what I think I can do. I can help people learn to use vehicles on the road.
All right, thanks, Chetty. First and foremost, good morning to you and the listeners at home. Now, the decision to start the driving school was that I saw that there was a gap in the industry where young people are not really occupying it. If you remember back then, you'll find that all people, they were the ones who were teaching people how to drive. You hardly see young people teaching how to drive. To answer your question, yes, it was very tricky first time teaching people how to drive because it's not, number one, it's not safe, and to be on the road with someone who has never touched a car, it's really like putting your life at risk and in danger. So you are bound to be nervous and you just pray that everything goes well and make sure that you are safe more than anything.
How risky is it though, Chetty, teaching somebody to drive when Siyabonga says you just pray that you're safe? I know that there's a dual controls, right, in the vehicles, that even the instructor has the pedals to try and teach. Are you also just as concerned when you have a new driver coming in that actually this person also puts my life at risk?
Yes, remember the 12 controls are made by someone, so by human beings, just like a car. So you can't be real guaranteed like they're 100% safe. It's up to the instructor that, okay, because remember, when it comes to teaching how to drive, not anyone can just decide to wake up in the morning and say, hey, today, let me go and teach people how to drive. You need to get skills. You need to learn all the important things. All the important things of teaching people how to drive. You need to understand thoroughly what is needed and what goes behind it, teaching people how to drive. Because it's not a matter, like I said, it's not a matter of just asking your uncle to come and teach you how to drive. Because there are rules you need to follow. There are signs you need to understand on the road. That okay, if I see this particular thing, this is what it means. The instructor needs to be alert all the time when you're behind the steering wheel. You can't be teaching someone to drive while you are busy, maybe chatting or taking naps in between. It doesn't work like that. You need to be 100% focused. You need to be alert all the time.
And Kenny, for you, that question of risk?
Yes, Tshidi, obviously going to a new student, it sometimes can be nerve-wracking because you don't know what their abilities are, especially for a first timer. But to get over that, obviously, we use our dual controls in the first half an hour or so until we get comfortable and with the student, and slowly, obviously, take them forward from there. But eventually, that's what you do every day, and we're quite used to that, though.
Do you and this is a question I'm gonna ask you, Kenny. Do you start with your students from when they need to do their learner's permit before they actually get on the road, or do you wait for them to get their learners and then you gauge them?
Okay, so the students have to start with the learners. So we do offer assistance with that, where we offer learners packages as well. And then once they do obtain their learners, then we then take them out and get them onto the road. And get them start the preparations for the driver's test.
But Siyabonga, and then the lessons themselves. I think often I see people offering, is it 10 lessons? Are those sufficient to get somebody? Is that adequate to get somebody ready to drive, to be able to get a permit? I often see people offering a package that has 10 lessons or so.
When it comes to that, as you know, we're living in a country where our economy is not really that good enough, but 10 lessons is I always advise my clients to take a minimum of 15 lessons, because 10 lessons I don't think it's adequate enough. The reason why I'm saying that is because remember, when you learn to drive, you need to learn first on the road, understand the road, understand the basics, before we take you to do the parking, which is parallel parking, early docking, 3.10, and so on. Because I can't take you to do parkings without understanding what the car is, what is the purpose of the clutch, what is the purpose of the brake and the accelerator. Otherwise, you'll end up bumping the fence there by the yard or the wall by the yard. Because when I'm teaching parkings, I need to stand outside of the car and direct you while I'm standing outside of the car. So, okay, this is how you measure the turning, the turning points or the points of the parking, so that you're able to master it and understand exactly what is needed of you when you go for your testing. So the 10 lessons is not good enough, but we try and push within those 10 lessons, because a lot of our applicants will tell us they don't have enough money to pay for more lessons, which is a bit difficult. But I always convince them that no, for your own safety, it's better to take at least minimum of 15 lessons upwards. And those 15 lessons doesn't mean it will be enough. Sometimes you'll have to add more lessons so that you at least become better and perfect when it comes to e-driving.
There's a lot of questions for both our instructors. I'm going to take a quick break. I see people want to know if you're teaching to drive on the highways. How do you help somebody with a phobia for driving? We'll answer all your questions and more after this break.
Running a hotel, lodge or B&B means giving guests the perfect getaway. But who is looking out for you? From loss of income to unpaid hotel bills and malicious damage to your property, the risks to your business are many. Smart business owners trust Auto & General Hospitality Insurance, so that when suddenly happens, you are covered. For an obligation-free quote, visit autogen.co.za or SMS business to 49025. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
So we did a thing. A full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring worldwide to your doorstep. So, you see how that's a serious thing? Because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT. So, premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sani Sixt.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct, to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
702 was in conversation with Altron,
Celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg
through partnership and collaboration.
You've partnered with Josie Majosi. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think firstly, it's really important that it's time to tell the Joburg story. You know, I think for good reasons, you know, things like Eskom, Transnet has been a big part of the national dialogue over the last couple of years. But I think it's really time that we put our focus on Joburg. You know, it's the heartbeat of the South African economy. And you know, obviously Altron's been, you know, as you said now with Bill and the founding of Altron, you know, very much part of that story. So what we've really done is we really feel that we've been part of building this city. So we want to really be part of the efforts to rebuild the city. So we partnered with Josie Majosi. They're a non-for-profit organization. You know them.
Visit altron.com for more info.
Altron, a technology industry leader
Since 1965. 702 was in conversation with Altron,
celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg through partnership
and collaboration.
You've partnered with Josie Majosi. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think firstly, it's really important that it's time to tell the Joburg story. You know, I think for good reasons, you know, things like Eskom, Transnet has been a big part of the national dialogue over the last couple of years. But I think it's really time that we put our focus on Joburg. You know, it's the heartbeat of the South African economy. And obviously Altron's been, as you said now with Bill and the founding of Altron, very much part of that story. So what we've really done is we really feel that we've been part of building this city. So we want to really be part of the efforts to rebuild the city. So we partnered with Tshidi Madia. They're a non-for-profit organization. You know them.
Visit Altron.com for more info.
Altron, a technology industry leader
Since 1965.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10:23, the Clement Manyathela show, Tshidi Madia in for Clement. We are speaking to two driving instructors. It's across the desk. I'm not going to hog them because I'm looking at the phone lines, I'm looking at the WhatsApp lines, and I think there are a lot of people who want to speak to our guests. I've got Kenny Chetty, who's director at Kent's Driving School, and Siyabonga Lushaba, who's a director and founder of Ambitious Beginnings Driving School. But I see lots of calls and voice notes. I'm going to start with you, Jake, in Dawn Park. Allow you an opportunity to speak to our guests. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm very, very good. You want to speak to our instructors?
Yes, I just want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the instructors are emphasizing on the usage of light at night, because most of these drivers are using very, very bright high beams. When you come up, and then we risk head-on collisions. It seems to me they don't understand that when the cars are facing each other, they've got to lower their beams.
Sure, thank you, Jake. There is a question that speaks to driver behavior. I think that there is a question about what is emphasized. Thank you so much. That's Jake out in Dawn Park. Abu Siyabonga, there is a question about driver behavior and whether it's tied to what they are taught. I mean, the issue of the bright lights is a thing when you're driving at night where somebody's insensitive and they're trying to see. I also want to make a claim and say that part of the problem in Gauteng is we don't have sufficient working lights in the evening. Gauteng's lights, Ekurhuleni, Joburg, simply aren't working. So that's a bigger problem. But you do find that there are cars that somebody is insisting on driving on bright. And so the question is, when you are teaching, instructing, what do you emphasize even to new motorists or would-be motorists?
Thanks. When it comes to driving today, we teach everything that an applicant needs to know, all the basics that they need to know. It's just unfortunate that at night we don't do lessons because of safety reasons and so on. But when it comes to other things, we make sure that all our applicants, they understand exactly what they need to know. But when it comes to the behavior of drivers and stuff, because people change, you find that I'll teach you everything that is according to the law, K53. You understand it, you go to your test, you get your license. You come from the traffic department, you go get your car. And after getting your car, you go to the pub or wherever to drink. Afterwards, you want to come and drive, and then you start breaking all the rules and the laws of the road, of which is wrong. That is above our control as driving instructors and the driving schools. There's nothing much we can do, but we always caution our clients and our applicants about safety driving. When I teach you, I always joke about that once you enter a car, it's basically you are entering a moving coffin because anything can happen.
Yeah,
I always
that's
tell the
scary,
applicants that.
but it's very
Yes.
true. It's very real.
Yes.
Thank you. Kenny, are there any people who come to you seeking to learn to drive, and after at least one session you go, you have no business actually being on the road. I don't want to have any part in arming you and equipping you and helping you get a license to be on the roads?
We do sometimes encounter students with disabilities, CD, but we try as much as help them as far as we can go. We do have those challenges, and we try to motivate them. But some instances it's very difficult, and we just have to say to them, especially in a person that's dyslexic or something to that issue. Sometimes it's impossible, but we try as much as possible to encourage them and motivate them until a certain stage.
But those
if
are
a
people.
person is not qualified to be licensed,
Mm.
but also we also get the medical practitioners to come in there to ask them to seek guidance and assistance from medical practitioners, and obviously get a professional opinion on it.
I think that's a different issue. That's an important point that you raised, but it's almost different from what I was asking. I was asking mostly on attitude, where some people come in with an attitude that you realize that I don't want to call it recklessness, but there's some people who have that posture, and you realize that ideally you yourself don't want to be somebody involved in arming somebody like that.
It's true. We do get some instances. Obviously, to get some students want to tell us as instructors. Some students that come in, they know how to drive. They're the ones that they're not the beginners. And we basically tell them, listen, it's our duty to prepare you for a driver's test, and discipline is something that comes into play here. And our most important goal is for you to pass the driver's test. We try to convince them, yes, but sometimes we do win, sometimes we don't.
And before I go to headlines and before I go to the WhatsApps and voice notes, I would say, Banga, disappointments in somebody that you tried to help and you've been trying to steer and to guide, and they keep failing that test, that dreadful test. They don't make it. Do you feel disappointed, or is it just, oh well, it's just another one? Oh well, how do you navigate that?
As an instructor, obvious number one priority is to see all our applicants and clients pass getting their licenses. That is the number one priority. If you see your learner that they don't make it, they don't pass, meaning you feel like there's something wrong that we are doing as an instructor, you will try by all means to push and make sure that, okay, this time around we made a mistake here. Maybe let's improve on this mistake. Let's make sure that we practice. Maybe the applicant failed on parallel parking. We focus more on the parallel parking while we are doing the other parkings as well. But we'll be focusing on parallel parking. And you'll find out to go again to do the test, and the learner, they roll on the steep hill. It's really disappointing. It's really disappointing.
Hey, the steep hill. I'm having such trauma listening to you boys. When I think about the flashing lights, I think about the steep hill and a rolling car. A rolling car. I used to shake. My foot used to shake as I was reaching out for a pedal to go, please don't make a mistake, please don't roll back. It's 10:30. Yeah, your news headlines. We'll pick up on that conversation after this.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says non-compliant spaza shops should remain closed. Hlabisa has been speaking at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital this morning, where a child was hospitalized after eating snacks bought from a Soweto shop. The 8-year-old boy has been in ICU for almost a week now. The IFP has recommended itself, or rather recommitted itself, to the Government of National Unity and reaffirmed its support for the budget, which has created a deep rift between the biggest parties in the governing coalition. Both the IFP and the ANC met yesterday as they try to re-establish partnerships with political parties and a reset of relations following last week's budget impasse. The IFP says it accepts the VAT increase, which will come into effect next month, is only a temporary measure to raise much needed revenue. And the trade war between the US and China is escalating, with Beijing now slapping Washington with 125% tariffs. China says Donald Trump's high tariffs violates international trade rules, basic economic laws and common sense. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage in Midrand, if you're heading towards Pretoria, you can still expect heavy delays on the N01 northbound between the Batlu interchange and New Road. So just to avoid those delays and save yourself some time, rather use the R55 or Old Pretoria Road as alternatives. Kempton Park heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. There's about a 20-minute delay on the R21 southbound. That's between Atlas Road and Pretoria Road and the R21 merge. So avoid that route if you can, or allows for extra traveling time if you're heading towards OR Tambo International Airport to catch a flight. Also, traffic lights still not working in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeek. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
You're still in your office and working, Minister?
I'm not sure what the alternative is. I'm here to do a job, and I think we are starting to really see momentum in this space now.
I imagine you need human beings to actually operate these drones. Do we have sufficient capacity?
So in terms of the procurement of these devices, the training is included in the package. The partnership with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform is also continuing. So it's really exciting, and people will start seeing these devices in action at the border posts.
Dr. Leon Schreiber.
The Midday Report.
With Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Some people go all out for date night. We just go out to the driveway.
Exquisitely sculpted lines.
And an interior that could pass for a luxury penthouse.
Why go out when the classiest venue is already parked outside?
The new Haval Jolion Pro from $4,399 per month. Its effortless style steals every scene. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and to book a test drive. Go with more. Go with the new GWM Haval Jolion Pro.
Do you have the pace to ace the race? The 3 million rand race. It's the one and only Spinner Zonke jackpot race, and it's exclusive to Hollywood Bets. Feel the heat from the hottest slots as you seek to spin your way to fabulous fortunes and precious prizes. A thrilling 3 million rand is up for grabs every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday when you hunt for hidden treasures and spin for big wins. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Dear Journal, day 4642 of trying to be an adult. I miss when being a millennial meant I was young, dumb and broke. Now it just means I'm old, out of touch and, you guessed it, still broke.
Aggressively realizing your age? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's simple and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Small business owners juggle a million roles in one. And that's what makes them one in a million. The 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN, asked you to tell us all about that one SME that just stands out. And this week, we're announcing the finalists on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa from 6 a.m. and 702 Drive with John Pullman from 3 p.m. Visit primemediaplus.com to find out more about the finalists in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
10:36. It's the Clement Manyathela show. We've got across the desk, we're speaking to driving instructors, Kenny, Chetty, and Siyabonga, Lushaba. There's so many people dying to speak to you both. I want to give them an opportunity, so less us, more them. But I also want to read this very message quickly. Where's that beautiful message that says here, every time when I catch a taxi, I used to make sure that I sit in the front to observe how a driver drives, to the point where I bought a cheap car and I taught myself to drive. It's very cute. That's very beautiful. I imagine there's something important about observing a driver. I want to bring in Butumelo from Westin. Good morning, Butumelo.
Hey, Tshidi, how are you?
I'm all good. You can speak to our experts.
Yeah, good day. Tshidi, I know the guys have a win on behalf of traffic department, but what I want to understand is, once you have gone through their schools and you've got your learners, you've done either 15 or 20 lessons, if you go for tests, is there any money that you need to pay? If there is, how much is it? Because I hear people say, if you don't pay 3,000, 4,000, the guys don't give you the license. What is the actual amount that one needs to pay for going for tests after going through the driving school?
let me get this right. What are you asking about, the test fee, or are you asking about the Jojo fee? Because we also know, and it's something that I would like them to weigh in on as well, is that this is something that we've now come to almost accept, which is quite heartbreaking, that it's riddled with corruption. You hear people saying that you've got to bribe your way to a license, or you'll fail 1,000 times like some of us. So there is that view as well. So we'll ask them to weigh in on that. Thank you so much, Mutumela. Are you asking about the Jojo or about the actual fee to write the ticket test?
What I'm just saying, what do you really have to pay for the test, and if so, how much, and why are people paying the 3,000 and 4,000, 5,000 rand?
Okay, thank you so much. That's Mutumela out in Western. Kenny, that's an interesting question. Do people actually have to pay for the test? I think that's the first part.
I think it's very important, and thanks for the caller to being honest and upfront. City, we live in a country, there's bribery and corruption everywhere. We've known it, we've seen it. It's something we don't engage in. Yes, it's very challenging for us, but it's something we don't engage in. We just simply say to learners, we sometimes get asked the question, we've heard we need to pay. What do we pay? We said, listen, our job is to teach you to drive. We will make sure you are 100% ready and put you through the test. Yeah, so we don't engage in those corrupt activities as a driving school.
So you don't, Kenny, help your learners register for the actual license test?
We do help them to register for the driver's test, yes.
How much is that?
It's an online booking fee. It's an online booking system that we now have. It's for the driver's test, it's 228 rands to register for the booking.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Siyabonga, he said, our caller said, 3,000 rand. And that's why I asked, are you referring to Jojo or the actual cost of the test, the driver's test? How does corruption find its way in your space? Are you also struggling with learners who want to be aided to find their way through buying, in essence, licenses? How do you manage that?
Tshidi, when it comes to this question, it's very tricky, but I'll be straightforward with you. At Ambitious Driving School, we do not condone corruption. So if there is someone who wants to do that, we tell them to go try somewhere else, because we want to protect the image of the company. We want to see the company grow. So we don't want to find ourselves in a situation whereby we are sabotaging what I've worked very hard for it to be here today.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the issue of corruption, bribes and all that, no, we do not condone that. But to encourage all our applicants to report it if they hear that there's something which is not good happening at the driving school or the traffic department, to report it. Because I don't work alone. I've got instructors. I might not know what the instructor discussed with an applicant, but I encourage all my applicants to communicate with me as the owner of the company to tell me that, no, Sia, your instructor has said 1, 2, 3. What should I do? And I always tell them that when it comes to the issue of payments, if all the funds are paid through the company's account, if there is a transaction happening between the two parties, do not come back to me and say, I gave so and so money. What is the story now? Because that would be putting my company at risk. I don't do that, and I don't condone that.
All right, Andy in Pretoria. Good morning.
And good morning, gentlemen. City, I just want to start with the following to say that, number one, we have been waiting in the training fraternity, driving schools, advanced driving houses, and for more than 20 years on the government to retrain driving schools, because there's a challenge. Those two gentlemen are involved in the training of novice drivers. Then after obtaining my driving license as a novice, whereby I have been driving the vehicle, because it was basics, at a maximum speed of 55 to 60 kilometers. And then my parents decided that this is a blessing for my child. He or she got her license. I can go and buy my child a car. They would go and buy the Verpa and the TS and the T and whatever. And that child now is going to test the performance of that vehicle. While the person has not been trained during the novice process, they're driving exceeding the speed of 60, they go to 80, 120. And that's where it goes wrong, whereby when you look at the RTMCs, the history, you will see how many youngsters end up in incidents, accidents, and others losing their lives, whilst they have not been trained to that. Now, questions were asked about awareness and all that, which is not honestly touched because there's unit standards and all that. It's basically a lot of things that involve, and I'm happy the gentleman has put this on the table today, but we need to have a bigger discussion because we've been waiting for driving schools to be trained, and there's also technology involved like driving simulators and all that, whereby the gentleman was saying, I am fearing for my life. Whereas a driving simulator can assist you that by the time the person gets into the car, he or she knows and understands the operation of the clutch, the brake. So there are technology as well. But like I said, the problem is where people get their licenses and they go and exceed the speed limit while they were not trained. And those gentlemen can. And they will agree that we need that, and there's training that has been promised, and we are still waiting. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't want to say our government fails us, but that is the truth.
All right.
And that is my 2 cents.
All right, thank you so much. That's Andy out in Pretoria. Kenny, there is an issue about whether a question mark. I think the K53 has been in the news lately. There's a question mark about whether it remains fit for purpose. Do you still think it's fit for purpose? Is there a question of a need to retrain the whole system, to rework the whole system?
Yes, Tshidi. I think there is some room to revisit the K53, but the current system does cover a lot of safety aspects that's in place at the moment. When it especially comes to K53, when it comes to your observations and checking your blind spots and all of those safety mechanisms that's in place at the moment. The problem is when it comes to the driver behavior, as we spoke about earlier on. That's where the challenge and the problem comes in. Once the students are out there on the road, in the open road, the behaviors change. So that is something, yes, we need to work on. We need to obviously influence the driver behavior on the road. And government can take it one step further and introduce some systems onto how do we change the driver behavior on the road.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to take another quick break. I am coming to your WhatsApps and voice notes, I promise. Those voice notes, they'll answer your questions. Give me a few.
Take a ride back to the greatest decades in music.
Because Saturdays on 702 are all about timeless tunes.
At 10 a.m.
Kenny Maestri sets the stage with the greatest hits of the 80s and 90s.
At 2 p.m.
Pushaza Sibia keeps the nostalgia flowing
with more classics you can't help but sing along to.
Then at 6 p.m., Richard Mwamba celebrates the sounds of the continent.
With This Is Africa.
It's more than just music.
It's your Saturday, wrapped up in the sounds you love.
Only on 702. Let's walk the talk.
What is your money doing right now? Is it lazing around in that other account because you're not sure where to move it for premium growth? Well, let's make it work hard in a Standard Bank Money Market Select investment account, where we'll grow it with a nominal interest of up to 7.9% on a minimum deposit of 100,000 Rand. Plus, you get access to your funds anytime. Open yours online or on our app today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The roar of the crowd, the thrill of clay court tennis, and the magic of Paris could all be yours. Destinations by Frasers, in collaboration with Delcy Paris and Air France, is giving you a once-in-a-lifetime chance to witness the Men's French Open final with tickets and return flights for 2. Purchase any Delsey luggage from Destinations by Frasers or Frasers stores this April to enter. Destinations by Frasers, South Africa's premium choice in luggage. Visit us in-store or online at destinations.za.com. Paris is calling. Will you answer?
Dreaming of your next getaway? Whether it's a sun-soaked beach escape, adventure-packed tour, or luxury cruise, Flight Centre is your go-to for travel. From flights and hotels to tours and cruises, we've got it all. Plus travel insurance for peace of mind. If you want the best deals, you can save more by taking advantage of our Bundle Plus Save offer. Plan your trip today at your nearest Flight Centre store or visit flightcentre.co.za. Flight Centre, your centre for travel.
This Freedom Month, 702 invites you to a soulful celebration of democracy and music. Join us for an exclusive afternoon of world-class live jazz, gourmet dining, and connection. Curated by Jazz and Beyond's Nothemba Madumo. Wednesday, 30th April, at the historic Sanctuary Mandela, Houghton. With performances by Feya Faku, Herbie Tswayedi, and Ziza Maftik. Plus a global concert live stream from Abu Dhabi. Celebrate the freedom of jazz on International Jazz Day with 702 and Jazz and Beyond. Powered by Omoda. Limited seats available. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
10:49, the Clement Manyathela show. Across the desk, we're speaking to driving instructors. I see a lot of your WhatsApps and voice notes, but I first quickly want to sneak in Patrick from Kruger's Drop before I come to the voice notes. Patrick, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning to you. How are you today?
I'm very good. You can go ahead and speak to our guests.
You know, I just wanted to ask the instructors or the owners of the driving schools if maybe is there any criteria that they are using to select best instructors? Because what I've noticed recently is that even the instructors themselves, they no longer obey the road rules. They just drive recklessly. You will see the car rating so-and-so driving school, but they'll be driving recklessly. So I just want to find out if the instructors themselves, because I wanted to take my son for driving school. I wanted to find out if the drivers, the instructors themselves, do they have driver's licenses? Do they know the road rules? What criteria are they using to select those instructors? Because I'm worried.
All right, thank you so much. That's Patrick out in Kruger's Drop. Gentlemen, I mean, there is also a message. I just want to quickly get another WhatsApp in that says, my driving instructor wore suits, a tie, and shiny polished shoes every day. You'd open the door for me, wait until I'm seated before closing it gently, then walk to the passenger seat. As I said, I would take the clean, shiny dashboard and perfume or air freshener in the car and the spotlessness of the car. He never raised his voice, nor changed his tone, not once, even when the words he was uttering would have had more powerful impact with a different tone. When people use the word gentleman, that's who I'm reminded of. That was back in 1992. I've sadly forgotten his name. Okay, that speaks about the culture, also about what an instructor looks and feels like. Siyabonga, the importance of the criteria that you look for when you are picking your instructors.
Okay, thanks for that question today. Look, when it comes to the issue of getting an instructor, you get obviously someone who has a driver's license. They must do the training, we train them, and then they must go and do the instructor certificate with the Department of Transport, and then they get tested. You write learners again from scratch, you do the test again. You get to be tested by two traffic officers, by the way, when you do your instructor certificate. And then you'll be fit enough to come and train. Like I said, earlier on you spoke about the issue of discipline. Sometimes you find that I receive a call from anyone driving on the road that, no, we see your car, the person who's driving it is driving on the yellow line, especially in the mornings, because the guys sometimes they come late to get the cars for work, and then I'll have to call them and reprimand them from doing that because they are damaging the image of the company. And it's very wrong. It goes to the issue of discipline we spoke about earlier on, that sometimes our drivers, they tend to do wrong things. And I deal with that, and I reprimand them. harshly,
All right.
because I don't promote such things. When it comes to the company, once the car goes out, it's basically advertising, and I can't afford to lose business because of someone who decides to wake up late and then they start driving reckless on the road and putting the company at jeopardy.
That's a man with his money on his mind. All right, I want to play a few voice notes for you, gentlemen, because there are questions there and comments there that I think I'd like you to speak to. Abel?
Hi, good morning, Chetty. How are you, my sister? I remember first time when I started to drive. It was somewhere in 2015, 2016. And then I didn't want to go to the ground. Usually when they teach us to drive, they take us to the ground. And I asked this guy, no, you're not going to take me to the ground. I want to go on the road. You've got a license, I've got the learners. That's how the rules are saying. See, we hit the road. I was enjoying very much. And then I remember one day he gave me his car. He said, you may go to work. I was working at Oshia. See, it was so nice. I enjoyed very much until I bought my own car. Ramaphosa Extension 2.
Good morning, Tshidi. Ngosi here from Benoni. Tshidi, truth must be told. I think everyone is being taught during daylight, and so there's no way that they deal with the lights issue. Switch off now, switch it on now. You are distracting or obstructing the view of the next driver. No, they don't deal. Instructors don't really deal with lights because the instruction takes place during the daylight when there's no dark. So they don't really deal with light.
Good morning, Tshidi. I have a question for your guest there. My daughter went to a driving school 2 years ago and she failed. Then the learners expired and she was desperate. Then she got another learner's license. She went for a test again. She failed. The instructor told us that she's nervous. Just need your advice, please, because my daughter says it's traumatic. She cries every time. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I like that voice note, because it speaks about the freedom. There's something when you finally get on the highway. I remember I lied to my dad and I drove to, what did I drive to? I drove from Leondale to that mall in the south. And then I was like, oh, but my foot. I keep saying when you hit the pedal, my foot, but the freedom of having completed one successful trip on the highway is amazing. But Kenny, she raises an important point, the trauma of these failed attempts to get a license and how traumatic it is and the inability to almost want to go back. What do you say to those people?
CD, yes, we get that quite often where, you get students, children they're very nervous once they get into the, behind the steering. What we try and do is we try and maybe convince them to try an automatic. It's a less stressful because you're not dealing with a clutch and you don't have to keep changing gears. So we tried that as an option. Let's go over to the automatic and it's less stressful. Sometimes it does help. Sometimes it takes a little bit more practicing as well. Sometimes you get to a stage where you can't win. In that case, we just advise the client, listen, this is not going to work. The other thing is we don't want to put a child through a test and he keeps failing because they're nervous as well. So there's no other options there yet.
All right, I want to play a few more voice notes. I'm almost done.
I just want to comment on the driving at night.
Yes.
So a lot of so a lot of the rules of the road are covered in the learner's test. So there is a section in the learner's test where they do talk about driving at night and dipping your beams bright and dim, and when to do it, when not to do it. So a lot of that is covered in the learner's section. And we do touch on that. The learner is actually quite right, though. We don't teach clients at night because obviously as we spoke about earlier, due to safety reasons.
Thank you so much. I am pretty much done with the conversation. But Siyabonga, just before I go, just very quickly, what do people need to do if they want to become driving instructors? How do they even find you?
If they want to become instructors, they can call us. They can call me basically on 0720889700. Then we will see how we work around that, because I don't have a lot of cars and there's no school whereby they say this school is dedicated to teach people how to be instructors.
All right. All right, thank you both, gentlemen. Thank you to Siyabonga Lushaba and Kenny Chetty. If you're looking for either of those two, Kenny Chetty you'll find at Ken's Driving School. He's the director there. And Siyabonga Lushaba is the director and founder of Ambitious Beginnings Driving School. Thank you both.
A massive congratulations to the lucky Powerball winner who won a jaw-dropping jackpot of over 110 million rand on Tuesday after playing through their banking app. Play your favorite National Lottery game and you could be next. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Dear Journal, day 4642 of trying to be an adult. I miss when being a millennial meant I was young, dumb, and broke. Now, it just means I'm old, out of touch, and, you guessed it, still broke.
Aggressively realizing your age? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's simple and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insure Limited, licensed non-life insurer. SP premiums are risk profile dependent.
And for those of you who are looking for Kenny's contact details, Kenny's at Ken's Driving School. The number is 074 148 6288. It's now time for your Eyewitness News update. This Eyewitness News is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let cars.co.za find what moves you.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says non-compliant spaza shops should remain closed. Hlabisa has been speaking at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital this morning, where a child was hospitalized after eating snacks bought from a Soweto shop. The 8-year-old boy has been in ICU for almost a week now. Hlabisa has urged communities to report unregistered tuck shops.
And I'm happy that the spaza shop in which the child is reported to have bought the snacks which affected him is shut down. We will go there with the whole team and also to speak to the community, because it should be a collective responsibility.
The IFP has recommitted itself to the government of national unity and reaffirmed its support for the budget, which has created a rift between the biggest parties in the governing coalition. Both parties met yesterday as the ANC re-establishes its partnerships with political parties and a reset of relations following last week's budget impasse. The IFP says it accepts the VAT increase, which will come into effect next month, and it's only a temporary measure to raise much-needed revenue. Lindsay Dentlinker reports.
The third largest party in the Government of National Unity says it believes the budget tabled by Finance Minister Ino Gonongwana is at its heart pro-poor, with robust safety nets to protect vulnerable families. This includes the expansion of zero-rated VAT items. Party spokesperson and Deputy Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says his party has urged for the National Treasury to explore alternative revenue sources to mitigate the impact of the 0.5 percentage point VAT increase.
Both parties further concurred that additional government borrowing is not a viable option given South Africa's current economic constraints and debt levels.
Despite current fraught relations, particularly between the DA and its other coalition partners, Schlengwa says his party remains fully committed to the GNU.
Both parties view the current arrangement as the most viable mechanism to ensure South Africa's stability, growth and long-term development under the current electoral framework.
The IFP says it will meet separately with the DA on Sunday. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Advocate Dalimpofu says the person who drafted the allegations against him relating to senior judges did not think about the effect it would have on the judiciary. Mpofu is set to face a disciplinary inquiry for misconduct before the Legal Practice Council. He faces 7 charges, 2 relating to Chief Justice Mandisa Maya and Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo. Khomotso Modise has more.
Advocate Dalimpofu is being charged for the character assassination of Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo for when he brought up rumors that he was guilty of the sexual harassment of female aspirant judges during his interview before the Judicial Service Commission. But it's the complaint regarding Chief Justice Mandisa Maya that Mpofu considers truly worrying. According to the charges, the senior counsel made comments towards the then Supreme Court Judge President during a Judicial Service Commission interview which were laden with inappropriate sexual innuendos, were offensive, unprofessional and lacked decorum. This was when Mpofu uttered the words, "And we spent our nights together."
And also the one about the Chief Justice is even sicker than the one to do with the Judge President. I mean, what do they expect the Chief Justice to do, to come and testify in some kangaroo court?
Mpofu says he's not worried about these charges as they were simply brought to tarnish his reputation. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And the trade war between the US and China is escalating, with Beijing now slapping Washington with 125% tariffs. China says Donald Trump's high tariffs violate international trade rules, basic economic laws and common sense. While Trump relaxed levies on other countries this week, he upped the ante on China with 145% on some goods imported to the US. Chinese President Xi Jinping says his country will not be bullied by the US, saying there are no winners in a tariff war. But despite this, Trump says he still hopes to secure a deal with Beijing.
We think we're in very good shape. We think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing. We're doing again what we should have done many years ago.
Gold is trading at $3,198.19 an ounce. The rand is at 19.39 to the dollar, 25.21 to the pound, 21.86 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.98 a barrel.
Well, at this stage in Amarentia, traffic pressure on Judith Road, that's between Berium Herzog and Beyers Nordia. Also, if you're in the Midrand area, traffic heavily backed up on the N1 northbound between the Bethlehem Interchange and New Road. Traveling towards Bedford View in the Edenvale area, the slow-moving traffic R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis Interchange.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 23 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says non-compliant spaza shops should remain closed.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Do you want to buy a Honda? Cars.coza. Toyota or Mahindra? Cars.coza. Do you want to sell a Cherry? Cars.coza. Suzuki or Mercedes? Cars.coza. Polo, Kia, Mitsubishi, Havel, Hyundai, Lamborghini. Buy and sell, it's very easy. All you got to do is type Cars.coza, Cars.coza, Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you. Cars.coza, Cars.coza.
Your voice.
Your station. 702.
We are listening to you. 702.
Live.
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 11, Tshidi Madia here, in for Clement Manyathela. We're through to the third and final hour of the CM show. We've got the relationship feature. We're going to be looking at having children, whether or not that's good for your relationship. In fact, we're going to look at the good part of that. And remember, coming up, As the seasons change, it's easy to lose focus on your health goals, but your health and well-being should remain your number one priority. And Clicks is with you through every season. WhatsApp a voice notes to 072 702 1702. Tell us how you plan to prioritize your health as the days grow colder. Include your name and ID number, and you could win 2,500 Rand in Clicks Club Card cashback. Thanks to Clicks Feel Good, Pay Less on 702. T's and C's apply.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back. We are having the relationship features, I said, and we are speaking about children. I'm joined in studio by dating coach Lee Joy. It's always good to see you, Lee.
Tshidi, so beautiful to see you.
Always fantastic, and you're sprightly and bright. I almost feel like it's cold outside, but you look like it's not cold outside. Resonate warmth. Thank you so much. So we are going to be having a conversation about the positive impact of having children. I think very often children get a bad rap. We talk so often about how difficult a romantic relationship becomes once a partnership, when partners decide to have children. It's complicated. It competes even with the attention that is required by partners to give to each other. So that's kind of what we're going to be trying to unpack now with Lee. I also want your thoughts. You can SMS or call in or WhatsApp. Our lines remain open throughout the show. Where are the positives for you? What are the positives for you? What positive things have your children brought into your relationship? How did having children impact your relationship for the better? Did you see a significant change in your significant other? Are they behaving differently because you've had children, you've added children to the mix? You can call on 011 883 0702. 072 702 1702. You can also put questions to Lee Joy about navigating relationships and children and trying to bring out the best and the positives of adding children into the mix if you're thinking about having children. I want to speak about the reputation of it all firstly. They do have a bad rap. A lot of people are reluctant and are quite fearful to broach that subject of trying to fall pregnant and have children because they worry about how it changes the dynamic of a relationship.
Absolutely, and I did an interview a few months back about the negative impacts of having young children, but I thought there must be something. There is. I mean, I know I've raised 2 stepchildren, or 3, and 2 children of my own, and I've seen how, yes, on one hand they negatively impacted our relationship, but also how they massively impacted my life positively. And if I think of babies, when I first had my child, both my children, and I speak for me, I'm not speaking for other people, but I had postnatal depression. And and if I'm truthful with myself, I think that the biggest thing that was so difficult for me is that I had to put somebody else's needs ahead of me all the time. And I found that really hard because I didn't know how to put my needs. I didn't know how to make my needs important, and I think that's what my babies taught me. Is that yes, I have to, because we have to help them survive, right? But then when they became toddlers, I had to learn very quickly to balance that, and through self-care and therapy, learn how to also honor my own needs.
I often find that when it comes to children being part of the mix, people actually view it from the perspective of the individual. You're speaking now about your experience, what it was like for you. But from a partnership scale, from the eyes, the perspective of 2 people who are trying to make things work and then having to learn and unlearn their own ways. What should we be thinking about that will help navigate, at least quell the fear that many couples have when they think about children?
I think that my second husband is English, so European, and his upbringing was very different from my first husband, who was South African, Afrikaner. And again, no judgment, but just the culture difference. The Afrikaner, my first husband was very much the woman is the head of the family, and I was responsible for taking care of the kids. Whereas my second husband was, yes, I'm the head of the home, but it's our responsibility to raise the children. So it was much easier working in a team with my second husband than it was kind of running things on my own in my first marriage. So I think that the first thing to really have the deep conversation to have before you have children is how we're going to split the roles. Who's going to sleep? I mean, most people work, both people work. So if some men and in some cultures sit, well, the woman is the head of the family and she has to take care of the kids. It's a very unfair burden, and it actually creates a massive rift within the marriage. If the primary role of hers is to take care of the children, it's going to place a huge burden on the relationship, because the men often then get, they get frustrated and they feel left out and they feel like they're not loved. And where must she find the space and the time to be able to spend time with you if she's taking full responsibility for the practical side of taking care of a young child?
What other conversations should couples be having? I think that's actually an important first point, is what other conversations should they be having if they're considering having a child?
So the three powerhouses of any relationship is money, sex, and family. So let's start at the top with, and then religion. I think fourth would be, the fourth one would definitely be religion, or faith, should I say. So if we look at faith, but that kind of conversation, I guess people would, no. So they'd have the conversation when they've met and dating about
Even
each other.
in the relationship with each other, you'd have the conversation about faith.
Yeah. But when you're going to have a kid, so if one's Anglican, the other one's Presbyterian, or one's Roman Catholic and the other one's Baptist, or one is Hindu and the other is Buddhist. So it's an very important conversation to have, because it really comes down to values. What kind of values are we going to instill in our family? Money, who's going to be taking care of what? I know in some cultures, the man is responsible for all the expenses within the home, children, everything, and then the wife's money, she can do with what she wants. In other situations, it's split. It works out. If she earns more than 60%, whatever. They work it out, like how what each person earns, and then a percentage of the expenses get paid by both. Or some people just split it down the middle. Then family, that Tshidi, I see time and time again in my practice, people will come and see me when their kids are about 2, 3 and say, listen, we're really struggling. She would be like, I really want to have another baby. And he's like, hell no, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, And so I think it's very important for people to recognize, and men will often say to me, and I know this sounds like a generalization, but if I look at my practice, she's always with her family and we're hardly ever with mine. And when we do spend time with my family, there's a problem. So family, the dynamic of family has a very huge impact in a young family. And I think also women tend to stick close to their families even though they get married, whereas men kind of follow the biblical thing of you separate from your family and you start your own. And you can understand a man wants to be the head of his family, and if she's always going to her dad and her mom for advice and support, then he feels null and void. So families are very, very important. And obviously then the one person doesn't get along with the mother-in-law or the father-in-law, and it puts that kind of pressure on the relationship. And so the conversation to be had is, how are we going to respect each other's families? What kind of involvement are we going to embrace from our families? And what kind of boundaries are we going to set with them?
What conversations should they be having about each other? You spoke about sex being one of the factors as well that needs to be considered. I imagine there's a conversation about how to positively ensure that your sex life is not impacted, your intimacy, your connection, you don't lose, even the friendship. Because I think a healthy relationship also has a friendship between the couple. How do you then, the rules of engagement around what we ought to do around babies when we want to keep this flame alive as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that impact intimacy, right? Within sexual intimacy within a relationship with young children and even older children. Yes, sexuality is absolutely an important part. I was also watching Tshidi. Who was I watching the other day? Somebody, Esther Perel, one of them, and they were saying that after a time of being married, people often like, oh gosh, like, oh, I know, I was talking to that divorce lawyer, I forget his name. He's hysterical. I hope his name comes to me so I can.
Yes, me too. So we
can listen to him. And he was just saying that it becomes a bit boring, sex becomes a bit boring and it's the same. And how does one approach that conversation? And he had such a funny way, because people can feel a bit, what's the word? Confronted or affronted by, like, hey babe, I'm feeling a bit bored in the bedroom, like,
yes,
can we please switch it up? Like, even that can be quite like
it can be hard to take from a partner.
So he was saying what you must do is you must wake up one morning and go, babe, I had such a raunchy dream about you last night, I actually just can't even talk about it. And what poor part is going to go, what did you dream? You got to tell me. Go, no, it's too much. I'm actually, like, I'm a little bit embarrassed. I don't know if I can tell you. And the other partner's like, come on, no, it's safe. You can tell me, maybe it's something we can try, Anyway, he or she explains, what happens. And this divorce attorney goes, well, if the other person goes, ooh, no, that's like a bit hectic. And then you can just go, yeah, I know, right? Like, ooh, no,
then you move on. You saved yourself from embarrassment. But that speaks to keeping the friendship alive, right? That means that the roles in parenting, if you guys go down that path, have to be at a point where you can even make a joke like that or test the waters in that kind of way. So what are the tools around communication that couples need to think about in navigating this space? Because often, and I think you've touched on already, the frustration becomes about how too much of the responsibilities is maybe on one partner, and there's no equal sharing of responsibilities, and then the frustrations trickle into the next aspect of the relationship.
Absolutely. There's a beautiful interview that I did a few months back about the sandwich approach with regards to communication, and it's 3 parts. So the first part is, love, I really love it with the way you do this. If we're going to talk about intimacy, right? So I really love the way you play with my hair, or you just come past me and squeeze my shoulder. You name a couple of things that you really love about your partner with regards to that issue. Then the hamburger part, the meaty part is, but what I'm really struggling with is this. So what I'm really struggling with is I'm having to initiate the whole time. And then the third part is, I wonder how we can collaborate so that can change, so that you are initiating and I'm initiating. So it's, what do you love? What's the problem? How do we collaborate? You can use that sandwich approach with any kind of topic within a relationship, and it'll land really well. The one thing to take into consideration, I watched another video the other night, was brilliant, where food, and I had this experience last night. I was so hangry. And my partner was like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I need to eat like now. And he was like, geez, but we got guests for dinner. I'm like, I don't care. I have to eat now. And so this video that I'd watched, they said, listen, please make sure that you've eaten before you have these deep conversations, because our emotional intolerance is much higher when you haven't eaten.
That's true. The issue of purpose that comes with children, because I did say to you in the beginning, and I know you know this better than I do, that sometimes people embark on this journey to save a relationship. But the issue of renewed purpose that a baby and children bring, can you talk me through those stages? And I wonder, Lee, if there's a difference between, you spoke about having your own children, you spoke about stepchildren. Can we measure it differently? What it's like being in a relationship where there's something positive to extract from stepchildren, even in purpose, versus deciding to naturally birth a child as far as purpose is concerned. I don't know if there is we can compare them, if it does matter even. I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I was really praying that I was going to get this opportunity to say this on air. I would not be the parent that I am today if it wasn't for my stepchildren. I had stepchildren before I gave birth to my own biological child. And I'm so sorry. Melita and Enrico, I pray that you can forgive me for the mistakes that I made. But thank you for helping me become the mum that I am today. And I am not a perfect mum, but I'm definitely a better mum than I was 20 years ago. Stepchildren helped me to navigate, because when I was growing up, I unfortunately had a very difficult upbringing. My adoptive parents didn't have the tools to help me feel wanted, loved, and seen. And so I always one day when I have children, I'm going to do it better, And then suddenly I became a parent, and in some ways I did do better. So if we talk about purpose, most families are where they want to create a family where they rectify the mistakes of their childhood. But there were also things that I repeated from my childhood that was deeply embarrassing and shameful, and I couldn't believe that I'd become, in some ways, that very thing that I'd hated growing up. So for me, purpose, if you talk about purpose, the amazing, beautiful experience my first husband gave me was deep compassion and empathy around the mistakes that I made as a parent with his children, our children, but his biological children, in that he could help me recognize that I was just repeating stuff that had happened to me. And so when I became aware of that, I was able to process it, pause, process, make a different decision, and then act. So if we look at changed behavior, the way that we can change behavior is we have to be aware of what the mistake is or the thing that we're doing. Secondly, we need to pause and not react in any way. Thirdly, we need to process how we'd like to show up differently, and then fourth, take the steps to show up differently. So, Tshidi, the purpose for me of I went into becoming a parent because I wanted to shepherd these young people and have this amazing opportunity to love and guide little souls. But I never for a minute thought or realized or even knew that they would be my greatest teachers. My children have been such an amazing, sometimes very painful and embarrassing view on myself and view on life, and have definitely made me better people. But I thank God for the grace and the humility that He's given me to be able to do that, because I see a lot of parents that take what their children say and do very personally, but then don't make the changes, don't see them as teachers. They push back on their children and can be quite abusive. So I think there's a shared purpose as a couple, and I think there's an individual purpose as a parent.
And then where those two clash or compete, what do you say to couples that come to you for advice in making sure that they don't compete as much, that they complement one another, the individual experience versus the joint experience?
So again, I love that question. Thank you so much, because so many couples come and sit and they'll be, we're fighting in front of the children. We shouldn't be fighting in front of the children. And I've done research into this. Okay, obviously if there's abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse, absolutely that shouldn't be happening at all, whether in front of children or not. But having conflict in front of your children isn't necessarily a bad thing. And actually it's a good thing, because I've had couples come and sit in front of me, and some have come from backgrounds where they never saw their parents fight or argue. It was like behind locked doors or whatever, and so they've never learned how to negotiate difficult conversations. They weren't modeled that. So when they come into my office, when they've got young children and they're young, they're newlywed, they don't know how to communicate. They shut down, they stonewall, they do the silent treatment, or they totally overreact because they haven't been given the tools on how to negotiate conflict in a healthy way. So I think having it, and obviously it's age appropriate. You don't want to be having sexual meltdowns in front of the children. Absolutely, topic, appropriate. But I think it's important that our kids see that we are, and it can be behind locked doors as well, or closed doors. But then, like, don't worry, mom and dad are going to sort this out. We just got to have a conversation. And then they can see, like, there's an irritation. But then after we've had a conversation, we hug, kiss, make up. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So you can disagree. Because they learn, okay, well, then that means I can disagree with mom or dad. And they're not going to throw me away. They're not going to reject me. They're not going to ignore me, stonewall me, sweep it under the carpet. They're teaching me the skills to be able to even, express a differing opinion, which in turn teaches children how to manage conflict.
I think there's a wonderful thing about children and expanding your social networks, and even sometimes driving you back towards your family. A lot of, I think, career people get lost in themselves, and it's only when children enter the fray that they remember that actually the world is bigger than me, and then they try and do that as a couple. I want to discuss with you after after the headlines. We are in conversation with dating coach Lee Joy. If you've got questions for Lee, please feel free to call in on 011-883-0702, 0702-1702. How has bringing children assisted you? I know in my case, when I look at my family, I think my sister having kids, I don't have kids, my sister having kids healed the wound of us losing our mother. It made us feel slightly better, patched up a little bit. So love was born again in our instance, but also drove us back to a lot of our extended family members. I actually think that a lot of us were living in silos, and now there's almost a reason for people to see one another a lot more. So that is one of the things that I'm thinking about now in my head, is actually that's an interesting thing about them. And there's an interesting thing about even in where you live, even when your friendship circles, when everybody starts having children, the way they relate to one another. You said earlier something about, I think, how it taught you as well, it grows you somewhat. I also do want to look at that. There are WhatsApps coming in here where people want your views on the blended family effects on relationships. So I'll give an opportunity to speak to that for you as well. I do recognize that it is something that people want to hear on a little bit as well. But for now, though, I do want to go to your EWN News headlines. I think, if I'm correct, we've got Mongezi Koko in studio who's got your headlines. A little bit early. But Mongezi, I think you've got the headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. The Cooperative Governance Department says it will activate all its systems to ensure the safety of children who purchase snacks from spaza shops. The comments were made by Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa on the sidelines of a hospital visit to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital this morning, where a child was hospitalized after eating snacks bought from a Soweto shop. The 8-year-old boy has been in ICU for almost a week now. The spaza, which was found to be non-compliant, has been closed, with Hlabisa and his team expected to conduct a site visit to the store later today. To this now, Deputy President Paul Mashatile has likened dealing with the DA in Government of National Unity to handling a crocodile. Yesterday, Mashatile briefly digressed from his memorial speech for slain SACP leader Chris Hani to affirm that the GNU won't collapse with or without the DA. Mashatile says the GNU will be reconfigured as the ANC invites other parties to join the coalition. Tensions between the ANC and the DA reached boiling point last week when it, along with the Freedom Front Plus, refused to back the fiscal framework and a VAT increase. Mashatile said at the time he expected DA ministers to quit. And one of the accused in the Jocelyn Smith trial has detailed how he was allegedly tortured during his police interrogation. Accused number 1, Jaquina Pollis, took to the stand today in a trial within a trial. Legal teams are arguing whether confession statements made by Apollos and co-accused Stefano van Rijn can be used as evidence in the main trial. The accused claim they were tortured and threatened with death to admit their involvement in Jocelyn's disappearance. Apollos, van Rijn and Jocelyn's mother Kelly Smith are on trial for kidnapping and human trafficking related to the child's disappearance. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In Tembisa, heading towards OR Tambo International Airport, expect some delays on the R21 southbound between the R25 Paffontein off-ramp and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Also traveling into Bedfordview in the Edenvale area, slow-moving traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange. If you are traveling towards Rivoli, that's in the Joburg CBD, Selby area, expect some delays on the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also in the south, that's in Nechirina, bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Golden Highway between Chris Hani Road and the N1. And we still have delays in the Amarantia area. That is on Judith Road between Barry Hertog and Bayers Nadia. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
Border Management Authority, they gave a briefing about some of the new things they plan to do. Drone technology will be used over the Easter period to monitor what they say could be illegal movements along the border routes.
So during December as well as in January festive period, we did do a bit of pilot with the drones that we actually borrowed from the Department of Agriculture. But this one is not a pilot, this is now real deployment.
Dr. Mike Masiapato is the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Did you know you have the right to fair treatment when it comes to your finances? If you're not treated fairly, you can complain anytime, and if it's not resolved, the Financial Sector Ombud system can step in to help for free in any South African language, and you don't even need a lawyer. Got a pension fund issue? Reach out to the pension fund's adjudicator. Bad financial advice? The FAIS Ombud is there. Banking, credit or insurance disputes? Approach the National Financial Ombud. They're all backed by the Ombud Council, so you're in good hands.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucket to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Remember when we were rocking just one bike, dreaming big for our delivery business? Those days. Now we're here with a whole fleet of vans and trucks. That's why it's important to have the right partner in your corner. Of course, we owe to My Way Business Insurance. They've been our go-to for comprehensive cover, protecting our fleet while we deliver excellence. Talk about going from pedal power to horsepower.
Move your business to My Way and get cover for your vans and trucks. Visit myway.co.za for a quote and do business your way. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A massive congratulations to the lucky Powerball winner who won a jaw-dropping jackpot of over 110 million rand on Tuesday after playing through their banking app. Play your favorite National Lottery game and you could be next. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
702 was in conversation with Altron, celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems and discussing their plans to rebuild and re-energize Johannesburg through partnership and collaboration.
So our business is really what we call a platform and an IT services business. And what we do for our customers essentially is we use technology either on our platforms or in a bespoke way, working with our customers to really help to operate their digital infrastructure, to optimize their digital infrastructure, and really to transform their digital infrastructure. And within this business, we've got a number of businesses. Netstar, probably one that you might be familiar with, which is really actually celebrated its 30 years.
Visit Altron.com for more info. Altron, a technology industry leader since 1965.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Tshidi Madia with you until 12 o'clock, standing in for Clement Manyathela. Remember, as the seasons change, it's easy to lose focus on your health goals, but your health and well-being should remain your number one priority. And Clicks is with you through every season. WhatsApp a voice note to 072 702 1702 and tell us how you plan to prioritize your health as the days grow colder. Include your name and ID number, and you could win 2,500 Rand in Clicks Club Card cashbacks. Thanks to Clicks, feel good, pay less on 702. T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
I am in conversation with dating coach Lee Joy. We're speaking about bringing children into the mix and how that can be positive. Having children can actually have a positive impact, a positive change to a romantic relationship. And I think relationships in general, how a family dynamic functions. Lee, I was saying to you, there's a bit of healing that also comes with bringing children along. I mean, you spoke about how for some people it's a way to make up for past mistakes, to also guide new life into the picture. So there is that aspect, but there's also a part where you get to reconnect with your network, your family, your social community.
Yes, I mean, we were talking about, it's so interesting. I mean, I look at how things have changed, from how the technology age has changed things. We are more connected than ever before, but we are more lonely than ever before. So whilst there are some families that bring children can bring families together, but if you look at some families are living in the city while the extended families are living rurally, so they don't have that support structure that they would have had they been living back at home with, in the vicinity of their parents. What's coming to me, if I may change the topic, is just or the direction is walking the talk. The 702 slug line, which for me really encapsulates what healthy parenting is. And, stepchildren from blended families or our own biological children, they really highlight our hypocrisies and encourage us to walk the talk, right? And to grow and learn and heal and unlearn, like you said, and relearn. And I think blended families, I mean, we know that, right? They're a bigger portion representation of families today. A lot of divorce. I think it's 53% divorce now. And I think, in my experience, where a child has really wanted the parents to get back together again, that's where the biggest fights of home, because the manipulation happens.
Yes.
The trying to villainize, the step parent, and often the parents that are divorced can villainize each other. But if they can share with the parent, their children, we love each other as people, but we're not in love with each other as husband and wife. And we love you enough to want to work together to co-parent each other. And I know that it's hard for you to accept this new person in my life, and you'll have time to be able to do that. But we don't want to perpetuate this idea that we're going to get back together. And that's not to hurt your feelings. That's to help you move on. And we want you to feel part of the love that we have for each other with my new partner. We want you to feel part of that. We want you to be in the middle of us as the hamburger, and not outside of this love bubble that we have. So I think the children bring an added stress to blended families, but I think they also bring an amazing, if I think about my daughter's dad got married on the weekend, amazing lady. And my daughter said to me, Mom, I'm going to be calling Fulu Mom. And I was like, there was no part of me that felt slighted or upset. I don't know, it was such a beautiful moment. And because I love Fulu, I think she's amazing. And I am so grateful that she's part of our family. And then Em said to me, do you mind if I call her Mom? And I was like, no, not at all. Like, I think you're so blessed to have two moms that love you. Whereas my first experience with my first my first husband's next wife, I love her and she's great. But I didn't have that maturity with regards to the divorce. So I think that how parents, the quality of their relationship with the other parent is reflected, mirrored straight into the dynamic of the new blended family. And I think that if there's peace, not even I think, I've seen, I've witnessed, I've experienced, if there's generally peace between the two parents, it brings peace within the blended family.
There's something about communication that you're touching on as well, how kids teach you how to communicate more effectively with them. And I think that's where the piece is. But before we get into that, I always get like, carried away and I forget about listeners, and that's not fair. I want to play you some of the voice notes that people want to put questions and comment on the topic as well. Let's take a listen.
Tshidi, your caller is not lying. I've funded 2 people.
Hi, Tshidi, Anonymous here. I like the point on intentionality because, like, people who get married off of love, maybe you may be in love for 5 years, 7 years, and it just seemed wonderful when it was just the two of you. But the intentionality of having a family with children and being a parent is what's missing. And when it comes up, suddenly somebody feels like the romance is gone. Maybe the father really becomes a father and pays a lot of the attention to the child, to the children, and maybe the mother feels like, I'm getting less attention. You're always looking after the children and looking up, asking about the children, whereby it could be spoken. If it was planned properly together, it could have worked better.
Hi, Tshidi and Lee. It's Ben in Kensington. I think what's critical in parenting and what I've thought about for a while is the number of children. I think 2 is really the best. You can fit them in the car. You can travel on your own with 2. What are some other factors? Budget for school, size of house. You don't have to upsize really that much. And also the amount of time kids will spend at home. It's 18 years plus how long it takes you to have those kids. So if you have 2 kids over 5 years, it's 18 plus 5. So I think those factors need to be considered, especially if you land up having 3 boys. The friends of mine have 3 boys, and it's just insane.
I've got a cousin who's got 3 boys. That is actually an interesting part, that to bring in that each of how many children you have. My sister likes to say to me, you have 1 child, you're a parent. When you have 2, you're a referee. And I don't know what you when you go beyond that. Because there is also that changes the dynamic, is navigating the amount of children you have and the pressures that are with the resources that are required to raise them becomes a factor too.
I love this conversation. One of my boyfriends growing up, he had 6 brothers and sisters. And I said to the mom, how do you do this? She goes, no. I gave birth to children that they could take care of each other.
There is that view. Some people have that view, yeah.
Excuse me. And it's a great question, how many kids to have. I guess it depends on, it's such a difficult one because, there's, people say to me, there's some people that shouldn't have children and they just pop them out and have like 5, 6, 7 babies and they're not even taking good care of them. But I guess, yes, one has to be responsible about what are your financial means, what is your emotional availability, what is your physical availability. Somebody who's they're children that have been raised by au pairs, that some would say that's terrible, it should never be happening. But, each family is different. So, I think it's important to have those conversations with your partner, how many children you'd like to have. Some people want big families, others just want one. So it can be a massive contention, a bone of contention within a relationship. And often it's the women that want more children than the men in my practice, and the people that come and see each other. And then I sit and we do a pros and cons. And I do a process around what are the pros of having another child, what are the cons of having another child, and they both do that list. And Tshidi, it's so funny. Like the women will be like the one lady was like, okay, cool, yeah, let's not have children. I get it. And I understand for the first time where you're really coming from, because I offered them both an opportunity to speak their truth from both the positive and the negative, so they could hear each other. Another couple. He was like, oh, okay, cool. So these are the things we need to do to make more money. If we do that, then we can have another baby. It's totally fine. And with regards to meddling parents, we're just going to put down this boundary. And with regards to the birth plan, this is how we're going to deal with it next time. So when they'd spoken about those 3 touch points that were difficult for them and why the husband didn't want to have more children, it smoothed the way for them to then have another. So I love having these robust conversations with couples around what their needs are, what do they value, and how can they get on the same page.
I'm interested in a lot of the pros that come up from the couples that you engage with, that you deal with. But I want to take a quick break before we speak about that. So let's take a very short break and then we'll chat about it.
Running a hotel, lodge or B&B means giving guests the perfect getaway. But who is looking out for you? From loss of income to unpaid hotel bills and malicious damage to your property, the risks to your business are many. Smart business owners trust Auto and General Hospitality Insurance so that when suddenly happens, you are covered. For an obligation-free quote, visit autogen.co.za or SMS business to 49025. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Doll, you know you can't tell us anything, hey? You realize we can see all these men bringing you gifts at all hours, right?
Sorry?
Sweetie, we know about your weakness for men in uniform.
Excuse me? Those men in uniform work for one cart, and they understand my needs. Michelle, they shop the entire mall for me, like Macro, Lint, Toy Kingdom, and more. Maybe you should download One Cart and get your needs delivered in 60 minutes. My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
Looking for an MBA that works wherever you do? Henley Business School Africa offers the only international MBA in South Africa, backed by a global network of over 100,000 alumni, leaders in 155 countries. Ranked number 1 for alumni network potential, Henley gives you the connections, confidence, and capability to succeed locally and globally. This is your invitation to join a world of opportunity. Visit henleysa.ac.za.
This Freedom Month, 702 invites you to a soulful celebration of democracy and music. Join us for an exclusive afternoon of world-class live jazz, gourmet dining, and connection. Curated by Jazz and Beyond's Nothemba Madumo, Wednesday, 30th April, at the historic Sanctuary Mandela, Houghton. With performances by Fea Faku, Herbie Tswaedi, and Ziza Maftik. Plus a global concert live stream from Abu Dhabi. Celebrate the freedom of jazz on International Jazz Day with 702 and Jazz and Beyond. Powered by Omoda. Limited seats available. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
11:49, you're listening to Tshidi Madia, standing in for Clement Manyathela. It's the relationship focus. We are speaking about bringing children into your relationship and how that can be really good for you. We're in conversation with dating coach Lee Joy. Lee, just before the ad break, and the ad breaks just throw me off a little bit, and I'm trying to remember where we were with our conversation. But we were speaking about the number of children that are being brought into a relationship and what that means. There's an issue that keeps popping up for me, before I go back to your pros and cons list, is an issue around the culture that you started off with, actually. How do we help couples do what they're not naturally inclined to do? So if the culture is men disengage, it's a woman's job, how do you help the men who come to you to conscientize themselves to actually a child is a relationship of two people, that you both need to engage, and that there's greater joy in navigating this with your partner, in sharing the roles as well, that even the tears, that it's okay to hug the child and to be there for those teary moments, that even you grow from engaging a child from that level.
Yes, I think that when we tag team, right, then it just, some burden sounds like such a strong word, but it's a lot of work to have a young child, and the work just becomes more intense as they get older, even though when they're teens, they kind of separate from parents, and then we've got to do our own work, internal work of the triggers and the buttons that they push in us. One of the questions you asked me was around how do children teach us to be better communicators?
Yes.
And I love that question because children don't have filters. They see things and they're like, no. And you know, I remember when I was growing up, my parents called me cheeky, but I wasn't cheeky. I was aware and I could see things and I just wanted to understand what was happening. So I think I love that when people go, there isn't a manual to raising children. I'm like, don't be silly. There are many manuals to raising children. There are many articles, many podcasts, many videos, and many books today on how to raise a child. Get educated, you know, go for therapy, get the tools to be able to raise healthy, loving children, and allow your children to share respectfully what's going on for them, so that we can learn about ourselves, because often we have blind spots. We don't realize that we're behaving in ways that are maladaptive or that are hurtful, and our children can teach us how to heal those things.
My parting shot, should couples be going the extra mile to convince one another of what the benefits can be? I want you to revisit very briefly then the pros and cons that you're talking about. The pros quickly. What comes up the most, and what must couples hold on to?
I think the beautiful ability to heal our own stuff and to build a bond with a parent or a partner that is different than if you don't have children.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to pause it right there for a little while because I do know that I've got a winner with me. So I want to speak to that a little bit.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
ZANU-PF is now paying 340 white commercial farmers whose land was taken away by Mugabe's policies. Should those farmers be comfortable and be secure in the current ZANU-PF?
That's desperate political gesture, which has nothing to do with justice. There is a lump sum much larger that the British government provided, but it ended in the pockets of the politically powerful.
Dr. William Beaufort.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
You would want to pay more than you need for electricity, so why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who saves a mind-blowing 918 Rand a month on a 2024 Cherry Tiggo 1.5 litre. Isn't it time you got the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
702 and Corporates at Care caught up with Sunshine Cinema co-founder and creative director Roan Pybus on tackling youth unemployment through mobile solar cinema kits.
In the film world, if you make a really great film, a lot of documentaries have what they call an impact producing strategy. So how does this film reach an audience and tangibly change the mindset? And so we thought of a mobile solar powered cinema, and then we started talking to the filmmakers and saying, do you understand, we're not a for-profit model, but we think your film can be very useful here. For example, in a conservation space or gender-based violence, a community that's really got high prevalence of gender-based violence. Started with a tiny little solar-powered cinema in a box that I hacked together, and now we've got these boxes are all over the province. We operate now in Eswatini and Mozambique, Kenya, Zimbabwe. The cinema is a way to spark conversation. That's what it actually is. People ask, why cinema vital as an NGO model? We do this because we know when you show the film, people are going to react emotionally. They're going to feel something.
Visit sunshinecinema.org to help South African youth shine. Let's walk the talk.
Not want to leave your bubble? You know, the one where anything outside a 10-kilometer radius is considered far. The one you've carefully curated to cover all your essentials. Work, food, entertainment, fun. We get you. That's why we have more than 80 Bidvest McCarthy dealerships nationwide. We're up the road, right next door. You could probably walk if we're honest. So swing by to get your new car. We must warn you though, it'll make you want to drive way outside your bubble. Bidvest McCarthy. Our people deliver. Always.
It's Feel Good Friday, and Clicks is giving you a reason to celebrate with your shot at winning 2,500 Rand Clicks Club Card cashback on 702.
That's right. Choose your health. Choose Clicks With over 200 Clicks clinics nationwide, convenient and expert care is always within reach. Their clinics offer wellness screenings and primary healthcare services for you and your family. They also provide mom and baby services like baby immunizations, family planning, pregnancy care, and more. Their nurses are available to give holistic healthcare advice and support. Book an appointment today at clicks.co.za or on the Clicks app. T's and C's apply. Clicks, feel good, pay less.
Good morning, City. Good morning, 702. This winter, I'm taking vitamin C, lots of nargis, lots of oranges, and also exercising. That's how I'm going to take care of myself this coming winter. Lots and lots of vitamin C, drinking a lot of water, taking my vitamin C tablets, and also oranges and nargis. Thanks, City.
I've got her on the line. WCile, congratulations. You've won 2,500 Rand in Clicks Club Card cashback. Thanks to Clicks, feel good, pay less on 702. Lots of nachos, lots of vitamin C, and movement.
Thank you so much, City. You've made my day. Thank you, 702. Thank you, Clicks. Thank you so much, City.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Catch us again next Feel Good Friday for another chance to win. Thanks to Clicks Feel Good, pay less on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
It's 11:57. Coming up next, of course, is the midday report with Mandy Wiener. Mandy, I believe, is still in Cape Town. Good afternoon, Mandy. What's coming up on the show?
Hey, Tshidi. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear today. Loud and clear today.
Just ate a nachi.
I'm so jealous. I love nachos. I'm going to go find one now.
So coming up on the show today, police top brass have been having a report back on their 3-day policing summit. They've been discussing all sorts of things, crime fighting, also the private security regulations and the IPID investigation of the KZN commissioner that's been addressed by the minister. The Cogta minister has visited a Soweto schoolboy hospitalized after eating contaminated snacks. So he's been speaking about spaza shops and what's happening with those. 3 big law firms heading to court over triple BEE code. So we'll find out about that court action. And then, of course, it is Friday. So...
good things.
Sports and good things. Come on.
Well, I always forget one, Mandy. You know that I'll always forget one. If I get one right, I get one wrong. But sports and good things, right?
Yep. Sports and good things too.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Mandy Wiener. She'll be with you between 12 and 1 o'clock. And she said sports and good things too. It's a Friday. And then, of course, after that, you will have Relebogile Mabocha, followed by John Perlman a little bit later on. And Stephen Goethes brings you the Money Show. On my end, though, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for engaging. That will be my bit for the day. Remember to stay tuned to EWN. And also stay tuned because the GNU conversation, I didn't speak about it today. I will absolutely be bringing you that GNU conversation definitely over the weekend as those meetings continue. But for now, though, thank you so much for tuning in. Your news updates are coming up next with Mongezi Koko.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mongezi Koko. Cooperative Governance Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says all systems will be activated to protect children buying snacks from spaza shops. Hlabisa was speaking after visiting Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital this morning, where an 8-year-old boy has spent nearly a week in ICU after eating treats bought from a spaza shop. The store has since been shut down for non-compliance. Hlabisa and his team are expected to conduct a site visit to the shop later today.
And I'm happy that the spaza shop in which the child is reported to have bought the snacks which affected him is shut down. We will go there with the whole team and also to speak to the community because it should be a collective responsibility.
Let's turn to this now. Deputy President Paul Mashatile has likened dealing with the DA in the Government of National Unity to handling a crocodile. Mashatile yesterday briefly digressed from his memorial speech for slain SACP leader Chris Hani to affirm that the GNU won't collapse with or without the DA. Mashatile says the GNU will be reconfigured as the ANC invites other parties to join the coalition. Tensions between the ANC and the DA reached a boiling point point last week when it, along with the Freedom Front Plus, refused to back the fiscal framework and a VAT increase. Mashatile said at the time he expected DA ministers to quit. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile has made light of claims that he's always been opposed to the DA's participation in the GNU and still wants to see them gone, particularly after last week's dissension. Speaking in the Eastern Cape yesterday, Mashatile said in his dealings with the DA, he was leaning on the teachings of Chris Hani during apartheid-era negotiations with an oppressive government of how to cross a river when you are staring down a crocodile.
And when you deal with the crocodile, you must deal with it with your eyes wide open. I'm lying on its back to cross the river.
Mashatile says the GNU has faced many challenges since its formation and none of it has led to its collapse.
It's not the agreement of the ANC and the DA. It's an agreement of 10 parties.
The ANC is due to meet with the DA for a reset of relations over the weekend as the party enters a third day of individual talks with political parties to re-establish a broad working consensus. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
To the courts, one of the accused in the Jocelyn Smith trial has detailed how he was allegedly tortured during police interrogation. Accused number 1, Jaquina